everyone, to the great simulation race. Welcome to Daytona International Speedway, host for the 13th annual Winstel 400-mile race. 43 drivers are going to try to vie for one of the most prestigious events on iRacing. We have got eNASCAR drivers galore. We've got Winstel Cup Series veterans, Avian Champ Car competitors, drivers from FTF. We got drivers from all across the board, from different nations, from Argentina, Brazil, Canada, the Isle of Man, and elsewhere around the world. For those tuning in here to Avian on Twitch, I'm Carmen Sienna. Alongside me, a former iRacing Daytona 500 winner, a former Avian Oak Mill World Champion, and a Winstel Cup Series veteran on her own right, Kristina Ryan. And behind the commentary booth, behind the production table, Amity Pulsatrix once again here for the main event. 43 drivers, one goal, a lot of time, a lot of miles between here and lap 160. Kristina, this is obviously a big race, a big time of the year. You've got a lot of familiarity with a lot of the drivers in this field. The nerves, they are pretty high across the board. What's on the checklist to start off this race here? Obviously qualifying here about 15 minutes away.
Right now, it's a who's who. You're trying to find some dance partners early on. You're engaging everybody around you in these practice sessions, these little warm-ups. You're also trying to see, if there's anything you haven't tried yet with this car, with this setup that you're still thinking about, maybe it worked, maybe it's not. This is the time to do it. You have unlimited cars. If you crash right now, you can pop back in, get a fresh car, and get back out there. All that's over in about 15 minutes, Carmen, so this is kind of the final pre-flight check, but I'll tell you what, that's probably the frantic end of things. There's several drivers here that have cool, calm heads. They already have done all this over testing over the winter. They've done this in the duels. They know what they're expecting. They're just chilling. They're riding around, just making sure everything's working the way it's been working for them the past several months of pre-race coming up to this, and this is the calm before the storm for many, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens here.
Absolutely, and it can't be more nerve-wracking than for our own Mo Perry, Avian Champ Car driver, Winstel 400 starter. He is in the field. He will start this race. Brandon Cruz will be starting at the back of the field, having to take an EOL since he had to use a provisional to get into the field. Couldn't race his way in yesterday, so he'll be starting from the back of the field. So we know who's starting last. We know who's starting first. It's Nate Stewart and Alex Kolonix on the front row. All positions between 3rd and 42nd, though, up for grabs in this session coming up here for qualifying. Everyone, as it was on Friday, gets one lap to determine where they're going to start this race. And that has been so pivotal. You saw throughout the weekend how hard it got as the race went on to make moves, to make passes without finding yourself in trouble. Speaking firsthand, trouble was about everywhere last night. We're going to have even more of that here today. Big difference, we don't have 40 laps, we have 160 laps. It's a 400-mile event. This is not the Winstel 400 from last year by any chance. These cars move around an absolute ton. It takes a lot of skill, a lot of precision in these play racing environments. It's not just making left turns. There's a lot more to it than that. Kristina, obviously you're a iRacing Daytona 500 champion. Obviously, this type of racing speaks to you pretty well. Emily Howe, obviously a former winner of this race, winning last year, our in-race reporter, here tonight as well. When a car is this dancey as it has been, when it's so easy to move around in the air, you're always on edge. How do you fight that? Obviously, there's some controls that you have within the car that you can set before the race if you're predicting it. What are these drivers having to rely on, though, to keep themselves in check? Because it's going to be close quarters from start to finish.
Honestly, Carmen, primarily their talent. This is why a lot of the drivers love this kind of setup. They love when the car moves around because it is a pack race, and we're going to see cars bunched up like they are right now in this massive practice pack as we see coming by the screen. But give it 10, 15 laps, the cars start to wear out and the real driver talent starts to shine. How can you adapt with this car? The track conditions, can you keep up with them? Can you keep up with the aerodynamics changing constantly? with how aero sensitive these cars are. Can you side draft effectively? Can you maintain tire wear? Because it will matter tonight. And that's why this really seems to be the most important Winstel 400 yet, because all of these factors really come into play. And like you said, it's not just running around with your foot wide open, finding a hole and shooting to the front. You have to be thinking about every single other driver in addition to yourself and try and play a game of chess at 200 miles an hour. And some people are just simply better at it than others. But that's what makes this so exciting, because anybody can decide, hey, I want to be a plate racer. They can study, they can practice, they can try new things. And that's why we see these underdog drivers jump up every year and impress us all. And then they end up being fantastic plate racers for the remainder of their career. It is a place where names are made, and you know, it's a huge event. And like you said, we have people from all over the iRacing world coming in to take part in this, and there's a reason why. Everybody wants a piece of the pie. Free entry, $1,000 purse. It's nothing short of one of the biggest races of the iRacing season, and it starts right now on January 5th.
Yeah, Daytona is obviously a crown jewel. It's called the World Center of Racing for a reason. Between the 24 hours of Daytona in 2 weeks, the Winstel 400 tonight, the Daytona 500 in February. We've got a lot of stuff going on here in Florida to kick off the year 2025. For those celebrating the new year with a bang, welcome to the best place to do it here on ABN. Again, watching this huge pack work together here. None other than being led by Emily Howe, that number 83 machine, fourth fastest right now. But you see something important. This is something different from last year. These cars, not only are they a little more movable, not only do they want to dance around a little bit, they're faster. Down the back straightaway, obviously we don't have a live speedometer here. I wish we did. 213 miles an hour entering turn 3. That is almost 15 miles an hour faster than we hit last year in this race. And that was under nighttime conditions. This is hot conditions for the racetrack right now, and they are through the corner. Emily Howe is leading the pack. Where you're slowest, 194 exiting turn number 4. It's so quick the way these cars roll around this racetrack. This is the fastest they've been in a long time, since the COT era back in 2013, when Tyler had set the qualifying record of 221 miles an hour. That's IndyCar level speeds, everyone. For those that are wondering, we're not far away from that here in race trim for this event. The timer at the top of your screen says it all. 7 minutes and change until we get to qualifying. The nerves ramp up. You're seeing a lot more drivers figure out what they can and can't do now, because they've not raced together in this fashion. You had drivers in the second chance qualifier. They raced with this number of cars. They just didn't race with this group. Everyone that was in the second chance qualifier either failed to make it or made it in, was one of the 7 that made it into the race here today. And you see Emily Howe, why she's a former winner of this race, had to save that one big time. Obviously those behind could not keep it in check. But 43 cars in this race. We'll go over the starting grid after qualifying is completed here. Remind me, I need to remind Brennan McGee, since he is one of the admins, for the idea of giving us an extra formation lap for this one. Since how it took a little bit to get through 43 cars yesterday. So give us some time here. I've got a lot of notes on this, so we'll kind of walk through this. For those tuning in and watching live on Twitch, we appreciate you joining in from around the world. 213 miles an hour. Yeah, we're flying. We are flying here in Daytona. It is a rapid set, and it feels fantastic. Having raced last night, my perspective's up on YouTube now for ABN. Drivers driving through the bicycle course.
Well, we talked about, Carmen, we talked about, you know, how do you prepare for an event like this? Some people, there is reasons for this. The best thing you can do is get your mind off of it in these final minutes, because otherwise you'd be having a panic attack, right? So this is a perfect example. Some drivers are taking it very seriously in these dying moments to try and get every last thing dialed in. We talked about the drivers. They're just taking a load off. They're trying to find some humor here, because it's about to get very, very real here at Daytona Beach.
It is, and obviously de-stressing is super important, and there's a lot of ways to de-stress here. Obviously, some drivers are driving around the RV grounds. What's going to be used here in 2 weeks for the iRacing 24 is an RV ground during the oval events, and you're seeing that here. This is also part of the bicycle track that we're seeing being put into play here. And obviously, it's not a smooth surface. It's grass, actual grass. Try finding that in February. But
absolutely. Pre-race starting underway, but I wanted to note one thing real quick, Carmen, is we do know, we've been talking about the speeds and how they've been increasing, especially this year. As the night goes on, I expect them to only get faster, but this is why the handling has been such an, I wouldn't say issue, but such a factor, is because the speeds are simply off the charts. It's something we haven't seen for quite some time. Obviously, the next gens never go this fast. We're back in the Gen 6, which is what many would assume is the superior plate package on the iRacing service. But it brings back those memories of the olden days and like the 87's pre-restrictor plate era, or even, you know, the mid-2000s when the old Daytona bumpy surface, you know, handling's a big problem here. And I think it might kind of benefit these veteran drivers, because we think about it, not to make us feel old, but 25 years ago, it was 2000. And that means that there's a lot of drivers in this field that weren't even born when Dale Earnhardt was alive. So they may not be very familiar with how handling feels when they drive a race car. The Gen 6, you know, late COT, maybe all they know. And having cars this fast, faster than they really ever went in real life in the Gen 6 era, it's going to be interesting to see how the young kids cope with this.
Several new faces in this field. I'm glad you brought that up as well. Obviously, this is one of the largest events on iRacing that are not officially hosted by iRacing. We talk about the Daytona 24 in 2 weeks. We talk about the Indy 500 that's run in May, the Coke 600 in late May, early June. We talk about some of these endurance events. This is not an iRacing sanctioned event. This is held by the Winstel community. This is internal to the core. This is Winstel's heart and soul. 87 drivers tried to make the field. We eliminated over half of that list to make up this 43 car field. That is insane. That's the largest entry list that Winstel 400's ever had, and it says a lot to the talent quality, not only of those that made it in, but for those that didn't. We had a lot of former NASCAR drivers that didn't make it in. A lot of drivers that have experience in this race failed to make it in. Winstel Cup regulars failed to make it and weren't even close. So we're going to have some new faces to talk about here once we get obviously in through qualifying. You see all the cars in pit lane now, 43 of them. We'll talk about the quirk with the pit lane in just a moment that I learned yesterday the hard way. But drivers meeting underway, everyone being told essentially this. This is a long race. There's 160 laps with one green-white checkered attempt. There is no need to go 3 wide. There's no need to go 4 wide on lap 1. Take it easy. Find a rhythm. Figure out where you want to be and how to get there first. Learn to walk before you run. These drivers are some of the best in the world. We talk about NASCAR free agents like Sean Butler. We talk about veterans of this series like Alex Kolonix, Nate Stewart, who's on pole position of this race, the former winner Emily Howe. We've got drivers making their first start but have never looked out of place, like Vlad Tokarev, like obviously we've got Giles Chatelain, you got Michael Sturgill, you've got obviously veterans at this race like Brandon Cattell. It's a huge entry list of who's who, as Kristina mentioned there at the top of this broadcast. It's that way for a reason. You don't get this longevity for this event without being able to draw those names, and that's the high quality. It cannot be understated here. With less than 2 minutes to go, you see the track facts at the bottom of your screen. Defending winner Emily Howe, our in-race reporter, will talk to her after qualifying. Last year's pole sitter Parker Alexander almost failed to make. Actually, I think Alexander did fail to make the show. I believe Parker Alexander wrecked in the LCQ, so I believe he is out. He is now in the steward's room. He's helping with officiating tonight. So from pole position last year to out of the race before it starts here this year, Nate Stewart got his first pole position in this race this year. He got that on Friday. The remaining question is who's going to take the win. We've had a couple of two-time winners. It's been a long time. It's been about a decade since we've had that, though. Kristina, this track is your bread and butter, though. You've been here more than I've even been to the state of Florida. Walk us through some of the quirks here around Daytona International Speedway and what makes it the World Center of Racing.
Well, as you mentioned, Carmen, I've been lucky enough to go around this, not as a driver yet anyways, but I've been around this track post-repave in real life, and I can tell you there are still some characteristics here. It is not a perfectly smooth track. It is not a perfectly round corner. There are quirks. The cars like to unload out of turn number 4. We may see cars getting tight, especially on the high line out of the final corner, hitting the wall because the banking kind of falls away there. Of course, if you're running on that yellow line, it's not perfectly stable either, and we might even see that in qualifying as well. You can touch that yellow line on the inside of turns 1 and 2 or 3 and 4, and it can upset the car. It can catch the banking, and it kind of trap the car down. You can even see here from this shot, you can see how it's not a perfectly even banking getting up to the banking for the tri-oval. It's one of the smoothest tracks in modern day motorsports as far as high banked ovals go, but it's not at all easy, and what we're looking at right now is probably the hardest part. Look at this car bouncing around on the apron. The apron is not ran on often. It is the apron, you know, it's the emergency lane. It's how you get on and off of pit road. It's not meant to be smooth. Look at the hands moving here on the 47. Look at the car plowing onto the surface of the racetrack. It's very difficult getting on and off pit road, and that's something that's probably going to be the biggest factor in today's race. We know it cost Brennan McGee probably his best shot to win this race last year, speeding on pit road. Trying to take a car from 200 miles an hour down to, 55, is one of the hardest things you'll do in this race, because remember, these stock cars are 4,500 pounds, Carmen. They are hard to slow down. They're hard to control, and with all these bumps and all these imperfections around this wonderful circuit, it does make it such a unique place, and that's why everybody wants to win here so badly.
Absolutely. Obviously, we're watching qualifying underway here. Everyone's got one lap to make an attempt. A driver that failed to make the race last year in this year. We talked to him in the pre-race show there on YouTube about half an hour ago, and William was just excited to be in the field. He got in easily in Heat 1, the same heat that Christian Budd won, and you're seeing how important it is. You talked about that apron, how important it is. Remember, the way to get a pole position, Nate Stewart exited the pit lane, the warm-up lane on the apron at 156 miles an hour. I was at 149 when I tried to make my qualifying run. So not everyone can do it, and you're seeing this is completely legal in qualifying, going below the yellow line to get your lap time. You cannot do that during the race. The double yellow line, out of bounds. We'll talk about that a lot tonight, I'm sure of it. William goes top of the board as our first time setter of the qualifying session. But here comes a lot of the times. Brennan McGee finishing his lap in his flu race game. Under the weather all weekend long. He is starting his lap right now. Alex Kolonix obviously locked into the front row. Kolonix and Nate Stewart front row. That's guaranteed. It's wherever everyone else finishes. Obviously, we'll talk about Brandon Cruz using a provisional. He will start in 43rd position in dead last tonight. Brendan McGee, though, got to 194 into turn number 3. That's the fastest I've seen entering 4 in qualifying all weekend long. He might be up to an absolute scorching lap time.
And he was disappointed with his qualifying run a couple days ago, so it tracks that he'd want to come out and really make a statement. And to do it under the flu, look, he goes P4, so a great lap for McGee. I tell you this much, Carmen, as someone who won a race on iRacing with COVID-19, it brings a lot out of you. Sometimes it makes it so the only thing you can think about is breathing and racing, and I think we might have another strong candidate. The flu game brings out the best in people. We saw this with Tyler Reddick in real life lately as well at Darlington. So McGee really putting a much better lap up this time than he did back a couple days ago in the pole qualifying.
Yeah, he did an outstanding job there, and this is where it matters. Sean Butler, we know how good he is. He's currently second fastest in qualifying. Remember, he'll start inside row 2 is how they'll end up lining up here with Nate Stewart being on pole position. They'll just move him up the order. He doesn't have to run a lap, really, to be able to do so. So we'll have to juggle that when we get to the starting grid. Emily Howell, the defending race winner, running qualifying at the moment, got to about 193 into turn 3, so not as fast in the top end speed as McGee did. This may not be a fantastic lap. Drifts out a little bit, tries to gather as much speed as possible. Grab the apron on your qualifying lap if you can. Where does that put Howell? It does not put Howell very high up the list. Top 15. That's 15th place for Howell, so not a great place to be. And here, yep, Brandon Cattell, 80
machine. Feels a little bit like an out-of-body experience, but
right?
he puts it P4, so he probably did better with it than I would have. puts it
It was an
inside the top
out-of-body experience
5.
for both of us last year with Cattell and Sean Butler, because Butler was the 96 last year.
That's true. Here's the number 41 machine now, halfway down the back straightaway. This is Morera. Keep it on the outside lane. I think this is his warm-up lap, seeing that he's on that outside lane. Have the left sides on that hash mark. Those are painted lines.
Yeah.
Don't want to get too close to the wall. We talked about it a couple days ago with the qualifying. If you get too close to that wall, you might have a little bit of buffering. Looks like some small connection issues for Morera.
No,
it's the end of the session, actually, so he waited a bit too long to get after it.
Yeah, so that will set the field here for the Winstel 400 in full. Now we know where everyone's actually going to be starting this race. We had 4 dual races that didn't set the field. It just set who was going to be able to make the field and earn their way in. Again, qualifying on Friday determined the front row. Brandon Cruz using a provisional. He'll start 43rd. We'll bring up all of that here in the starting grid as all of this comes to light here. But showtime is now here. So again, for everyone tuning in here on ABN for the Winstel 400 in 2025, excuse me, 13th annual Winstel 400. Yeah, we did go backwards. Trying to count backwards there. But again, welcome everyone to the Winstel 400 here, the great simulation race. I'm Carmen, Sienna, former iRacing Daytona 500 champion. Kristina riding alongside me. Amity Pulsatrix behind the production stage at this point. 43 drivers looking for the grand prize here on January 5th, 2025 at Daytona International Speedway. We're kicking off the year with a bang, and here you go. Here's your starting grid as it was. It's Alex Kolonix and Nate Stewart, although that looks like to be a little bit inverted. Nate Stewart has lane choice. That's important. So he could have chosen the outside here. We'll know that for sure once we get rolling here. Sean Butler, Brandon Cattell, 2 of the best drivers that were not on pole. They are in row 2. Aaron Smith, the second, and James Holzer. They qualified extremely well. Row 3 for both of them going through this event. Kevin McAdams and Brennan McGee, row 4. McGee in the top 10, wanting to last and survive this race through illness and bad luck. See if he can do it. Brandon McKissick and Cole Hooper in the top 10. Cole Hooper, his debut, he qualifies top 10. Kristina, as we go into row 6.
Yeah, it's Austin Reedy and Nick Doucette in row 6, the 11 and 51 car respectively. Doucette, a long-time veteran of Winstel and this race as well. We have Corey Carpenter, teammate to Cattell in the number 30 in row 7, along with one of our Brazilian drivers, Gabe Mauricio, another Winstel regular. Vlad Tokarev making a stunning event here, Speed Week so far, puts it at 1 spot ahead of reigning champion Emily Howe, so really making a statement despite no sponsors on that machine. Rocky Boyd the third and Nick Pressey in row number 9 behind them. Nick Pressey, one of those 2 Speed Racer cars you'll have to look out for tonight. Christian Budd, one of the dual winners a couple days, or last night actually, in row 10 alongside Jose Solis Jr., who made it in the show to this year as well. 2 very seasoned Winstel drivers rounding out that 10th row with Lucas Davila and Michael Sturgill behind them. Of course, we talked about Davila with that beautiful asymmetric paint scheme. Michael Sturgill running that famous number 3 on a track that has seen so much success here. Zachary Robinson in the number 20 DeWalt Toyota alongside Caden Diedrich in the Exalta 74. They will be starting 23rd and 24th respectively, with Thomas Harmon and Kirk Marble behind them in row number 13 as we work our way a little deeper through the field, Carmen.
Absolutely. Row 14, this is 27th and 28th on the grid. Justin Malillo, who had to scrape his way in, finished last position in the last chance qualifier. He's 27th alongside the driver that had to wait for a driver to miss this race to jump in. Mo Perry in row 14 on the 28th position. Jalen Handcamp qualified yesterday. So too did William Boisvert. Boisvert got in immediately in that first heat, although he'll start 30th in this race. 16th row, 31st, 32nd, you'll see Anthony Krovak for Big Fan Esports alongside MPEM's Bryce Saucier, that second Speed Racer car that you saw earlier in the graphic as well for Nick Pressey. Those 2 are teammates that are in row 16. As we move on to row 17, it's Jacob Potak, who won the last chance qualifier alongside GT Hawkins, making his debut in the Winstel 400. Tyler Murray and Charles Kalinyan in row 18. Kalinyan, 1 of 2. Mikhail Valiant race cars here. Corey Cook and Eli Sasick in row 19, both of them racing their way in. Cook racing his way in through the second chance race last night. Giles Chatelain, the other Valiant car in the inside row 20, alongside Brandon Cruz, who has that EOL. He will start in 43rd position. We've got a couple more rows to go through, though. Tristan Baker did well in the duels yesterday, not so good in qualifying. He's alongside Craig Lautenschlager, who's at the back of the field with a mechanical issue. He is on track, though, for this race. Leandro Moreira did not set a time either, although he will move up a spot for the penalized, the EOL provisional of Brandon Cruz to make up your 43 car field here in Daytona. This track is magical. It's one of the 3 most magical places in the United States. It's Daytona, Indianapolis, and most people argue between Watkins Glen and Road America for the 3rd. 43 cars, though, thousands upon thousands of horsepower, are going to be singing for 160 laps here at Daytona International Speedway to kick off 2025 in style. For those watching around the world on ABN, we're glad you're with us here to celebrate the start of a new year. It is Nate Stewart and Alex Collins, both of them on the front row. Once again, both of them still looking for their first win of the Winstel 400. Emily Howe starting this race from mid-pack. Can she go back-to-back for the first time in over 10 years? We're going to find out all that information. I'm Carmen, Sienna, Kristina Ryan alongside me. Going to bring you flag-to-flag coverage here of the Winstel 400. For those interested, Winstel season starts on March 2nd for the Winstel Cup Series. Discord.gg/Winstel if you want to join in. Getting all that out of the way. This will be the great simulation race on iRacing. 43 drivers are going to see the green flag. We're racing for the Winstel 400. Let's get at it. First lap in the books. Everyone got going cleanly. And they still sit 2 by 2 here for the Winstel 400. And it is still those that start at the front of the field. Nate Stewart did elect the top lane as the pole sitter. You'll see that throughout the race as well. If we have cautions and restarts here, the first car in line has lane choice before they double up. So it's Stewart and Cattell on the outside lane. It's Sean Butler and Alex Collins leading the inside lane. As they come around to complete lap number 2, it'll be 5 miles out of 400 completed at the line. But so far, very clean. And we saw this throughout the duels yesterday. The opening 5 laps, pretty well safe and sound. It's what comes after those first 5 laps when these tires begin to go a little bit beyond that fresh life cycle that the question marks begin to be raised, Kristina.
Yeah, absolutely. And already we've had one lead change, but 2 different leaders in 2 different laps as Collins was able to swipe the lead from Nate Stewart. But the history book's already being written. The first couple pages in the books, and so far so good. But as you mentioned, those tires will only last for so long. The window for the tires being super fresh is anywhere, like you said, between 5 to 8 laps. So after 10 laps, they really start to get into this graining phase. And at least when I was testing the car, you have a little bit more recent experience than me since you were in the dual races. It seems like after 15 laps or so, they kind of come back to life a little bit. They kind of stabilize, and you can predict a little bit better what they're going to do. But that mid phase is going to be really difficult for some of these drivers. But that's why everybody's giving room. Everybody's taking care of their stuff right now. There's no reason to go ballistic in a 160 lap race. And I think everybody knows that. Again, we eliminated over another field size and then some of drivers to get to this group. So every one of these 43 drivers absolutely belong to be here. And they're showing it right now, a clean first start to this race.
Absolutely. And as you mentioned, yeah, the tires are going to be a huge factor throughout this race. And the big factor in the tires, obviously they fall apart here. The fuel load determines a little bit of that too. If the fuel load as the fuel load goes away, there's a little bit of a crossover point in that. And then like it crosses over again, the tires just kind of fall apart altogether. So it's a huge variance, and those in the outside lane are going to be at the biggest detriment because that's where the track is the roughest. The track's the smoothest at the bottom, it's the most traveled at the bottom. So not only is the outside lane going to be bumpier, it's going to have more dirt on it throughout the weekend as well. That's how it's been all weekend long. So those in the outside lane don't like staying out there all race long, but they may not have a choice because that inside lane is potent right now, riding on board with Brandon McKissick, a former Winstel Cup Series race winner, trying to add Winstel 400 race winner to his accolades here. He's alongside the debutant Cole Hooper.
Yeah, McKissick, also a former NASCAR Coca-Cola Series driver.
Yeah.
One of many in this field that are either former or current Coke drivers. But the other thing to note, Carmen, about that outside lane, it is bumpier, it is a little less travel, but the nice thing about it is it's a wider radius. It is a little easier on those tires, especially if your car is pushing, which is when the car has understeer, wants to slide up the racetrack. That's a little bit easier to maintain on the top lane here. Oh, we got an explosive engine. The 70 has gone around. That's Aaron Smith.
That is I think that's the 33 of Butler, I believe. And caution's out. Smith saved it for the most part. I don't see.
Oh, there we go.
That's Saucier involved. That is GT Hawkins in the 14. Sasick slides his way through. I believe that's 33 of Butler.
Crowbox in there as well. So early on, an engine explosion catching everybody out of place here.
Butler was pushing Kolonix the entire first stint of that race.
Oh, look at the damage on the 5 machine. We've seen a lot of skew this weekend, but that's a little more than you're going to want. We'll see if
it's unfortunate for Saucier, too, who was hoping for a way better run than he had last year when he made his debut in this event.
Was that Mo Perry parked up there, or was that Justin Malillo that was parked on the wall there?
I believe that was Perry. Malillo's got a darker car.
Yeah.
I'll have to go back and look. That didn't look like Perry either. Not sure.
Not for sure.
It might have been Perry.
It all started when the bright yellow number 70, Aaron Smith, gets turned down the back straightaway on the entry to turn number 3, and then all heck breaks loose ahead.
So it starts with Sean Butler losing his engine because Aaron Smith was behind him and got checked up by it. And obviously they went 3 wide, not realizing that Butler is just trying to stay out of the way.
That was Perry in the 28 car.
Yeah, it was Perry.
Look at Corey Cook, I think that is in the 61. 61 machine barely sneaking by. Yeah, so here's what happened.
61, and you see the smoke immediately on the replay here.
So nothing Aaron Smith could do. He's sitting behind Butler, and you'll see the smoke. There it goes. Butler loses his engine.
At these speeds, these are over 205 miles an hour, even that far forward in the pack. He gets very lucky there.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, that contact's going to be pretty significant on that driver's side, but it's not every day you get turned backwards at 100 or 200 plus at Daytona and don't destroy the car and have to go to the infield care center. It seems like the 33 car Butler, I think that was Butler's car that was the stricken car stuck in the middle, and that's why he was so slow. Everybody tried to scatter and only so many places to go there. See a great Corey Cook, absolutely. I would love to see an onboard with him as he picked his way through that. I think he barely scraped the wall. See Emily Howe, Pressy, Jose Solis. Yeah.
So Vlad Tokarev got through the 57, the Isle of Man native. Just slid through the gap there, and Corey Cook did a really smart job there.
This is a brilliant avoidance. And everybody behind did a great job. It's just look at the 70 car airborne on the left-hand side of your screen in the meantime. Everybody's looking at that, hoping that he doesn't come back up the banking. And there you see all heck breaking loose. Corey gets on the binders, slows it down. We talked about how hard it is to slow these cars down. He may have just scraped the wall, but nothing that can't get bent out in the pit lane.
I didn't see any damage. I didn't see any damage on his car going through, so I believe he did get away with that.
Brilliant avoidance.
Let's see. Mo Perry not so lucky. The Cinderella story
over in an instant.
Up there. Yeah.
And you hate to see a wreck like this early on because so much goes into these. We've had months of testing, a whole weekend worth of racing just to get here, and I'm sure to blow your engine on lap 4 like that, you never really like to see that, especially when it takes out a bunch of cars. But we were just talking about our Isle of Man native of Tokarev. Look who stayed out and is going to try and lead some laps for his country here. This is outstanding. No sponsors on that 57, gang. You might want to get into contact there because he's leading the race. He's leading the biggest race on iRacing.
He's doing a really good job right now, and obviously he did a really good job avoiding that accident, getting around Sean Butler before it all took place there. And Sean Butler, that's not a mistake Butler makes all the time. We talked about how good Butler is. He's up there with, obviously, Collinix, with Cattell, with Stewart. Butler, he's an eNASCAR free agent. Like, he's qualified for the eNASCAR Coke Series. He's in the show for 2025. He's just waiting for a team to sign him. But an early exit for Butler, because unlike the damage that Aaron Smith received, you're not repairing a blown engine like that in less than 30 minutes.
Yeah, so, which, you could pick up some places here and there, but I don't think the race purse really extends that far down anyway.
Yeah, you would need a lot of things to go wrong.
Mo Perry, we saw 2 laps down, not actually going to be last place because he was at the end of the pit lane there, so he was held for another lap. So whatever issues they had, that car actually got fixed and back on track. So it'll be an uphill battle for the rest of the night. It's going to be a very long night for Mo Perry fans, but the Cinderella story may not be over yet as far as getting a decent finish. Seeing him at the end of pit lane, I believe the 70 of Aaron Smith got that car fixed enough to stay on the lead lap as well.
He is 33rd, yeah.
Yeah, someone who you would have thunk, if you would have shown the picture of the first frame of this caution flag, you would have think the 70 car would be in Lake Lloyd, but
yeah,
keeps it on all fours. There's Mo Perry in the background. There's also that Exalta machine. So several drivers pitting even if they don't have damage as well. You see the 14 car back on track. He was involved in that. Still rolling. So I think the only real major retirement, if I'm not mistaken, is going to be Sean Butler. I think everybody else got it put back together.
It looks like it, and obviously that's going to be a very important battle here. Obviously Mo Perry, the only car right now off the lead lap.
Yeah,
that's
there's
important to indicate here, because Mo Perry being the only car a lap down, if there's another quick caution, he's in the free pass position. First car a lap down gets a free pass. They get back 1 lap under the next caution. So if Perry can get a couple of those, he's looking good. Nick Doucette riding on board with the Energizer 51. His teammate Ryan Hill disqualified twice in the qualifying duels for this race. So Doucette's having to go it alone a little bit here. Right on board with him here for the start of this first restart to kick off lap 10 of 160 here in the Winstel 400. 1 caution, but we're good to go now. Back underway after the lap 4 incident with Sean Butler blowing his engine and then a crash ensuing because of it.
And Collinix and Nate Stewart on that top lane immediately started pushing to try and clear Vlad Tokarev. But here's Brandon Cattell. They're getting a little unsteady here. Cattell now pushing an unlikely friend now with Vlad Tokarev. Your friends are where you find them in this race, Carmen. And this is a perfect example. Vlad's not rolling over. He's going to try and lead some green flag laps here in that number 57.
Being able to talk to Tokarev here, he has done, obviously, plate races before. You have to have done a certain amount of races to be able to qualify for this event. He has not been in a caliber of field this size before. His iRacing is closer to mine than it is to yours.
Yeah.
To kind of put that in perspective here. So he's really out of depth here. It's sort of like what I was in the duels last night when I was leading last.
But look at him. He goes up and side tracks Alex Collinix, one of the most experienced drivers on plate tracks. Just because he's new doesn't mean he's useless. He is absolutely fighting for it.
He was fantastic to work with last night, and obviously he's going to have an amazing bit of help here from Cattell behind him, and I believe that's a 34 Cole Hooper, another debutant for this race, just behind Cattell there, 3rd in line on the inside. But look at that outside lane. That's Collinix, that's Nate Stewart, and then look at
Mauricio back there as well.
Right there.
Holzer.
Yeah, James Holzer, a good-looking car there as well. So really stacked, but very mixed up front of the field here, but they look like they fit in, and that's what you want to see from your newcomers. They are not afraid to take chances. Tokarev gonna swing for the fences here. Being the only one to stay out, though, he's gonna be in trouble when he has to make that pit stop, because he will be all alone on that pit stop.
For sure, but I like that move, I think Tokarev definitely seems to have the talent that he could race his way up there, but he started pretty deep in the field. He sees an opportunity to go out, lead laps early. If this strategy backfires, there's a good chance he'll get back on strategy with everybody else with 150 laps to go. This gives him great TV time. We're talking about him, right? It's a fantastic move from a rookie, and he's also, what he's doing right now is he's kind of showing his muscle. He's in a situation now where he's racing with some front runners that we expect to be really strong contenders to win this race, and you sit there as Brandon Cattell pushing the 57 and go, hey, this guy's not too bad. Maybe I can hook up with him later in the race. He's going to try and get up behind Collinix, maybe push Alex Collinix, be making people remember about that number 57 when it gets to be crunch time. This is exactly what he's doing. He's doing a little bit of politics early on in this race, and it's working out beautifully.
And you know what? Fortune does favor the bold in this extent, because Tokarev was like, I'm going to go out, I'm going to lead this race, but I'm going to mix myself up with potential race winners. So if I'm back up here at the end of the race, they're not going to ditch me.
Absolutely.
You're gaining that favor throughout the race, as he has throughout the duels as well. He was sort of being noted last night as a reliable hand. If you needed someone to fall back on and you weren't around any friends at that point of the race, the 57 was noted as someone that could do the work. So he's in a good spot right now. Obviously, if he's got any uncertainties or if he's got any questions, he's in the group that he's going to learn by watching. So that's obviously a huge, monumental part of this. Riding on board here, I want to see you riding on board with, this is 68 Thomas Harmon, who is currently up in 14th, 11 spots gained, and look right there to the left side. That is McKissick and Howe. And Jose Solis Jr.
Jose Solis Jr. Yeah, that's a pressure cooker right there, but they do work together very well. And you can see who's that trying to split the middle there, coming up with a big head of steam. Is that can't quite tell who that is. I believe that might be the Doritos Mustang in the middle, three wide, trying to make some move. Yeah.
That is the 26. That is trying to remember the name off of that. This is Kevin McAdams.
Kevin McAdams. So he's kind of been moving backwards here. He started 7th. Look at the shunt there. That was Christian Budd who had to get way out of the throttle. And still 3 wide in the middle. See, that move works for a minute, but with no real help behind him. You can see he's now in what we call the sucker hole. You get dirty air on both ends. Side drafting, something we'll talk about a little bit later in the race, but to try and keep it as simple as possible, if a car gets up on your quarter panel, it's going to pull you back and slow you down. When you're in the middle 3 wide, Carmen, you got people doing that on both sides. You'll see as he shoots to the middle now, he's going to side draft both cars and get some momentum, but it's going to stall out very quickly. But he uses it to his advantage here to try and just about clear the number 5 car. So you kind of got to get in and get out in the middle. You can't stay around or else you'll start falling back like we saw him do just there.
Coordinated. You have to find people that are willing to go with you. Like when I went to the middle, Jose was already in there. Jose bowed out. Corey Cook slotted in, and we went to the front in that first heat. And we did it again in the St. James qualifier, and Corey Cook got in because of it. So, like, there's a lot that goes into that. But you can't just go in there gung-ho, because we talked about the aggressiveness that pays off, like with Tokarev being strategically aggressive. McAdams, that's the aggressiveness that typically doesn't earn you any favors at all. Because now you're like, okay, most of the field, especially the veterans, are going to know this 3 wide's not the right play. But now, McAdams, because he was trying it, a lot of people now have the idea. Look at one of the drivers leading the line, though, Nick Doucette.
Let's say the energy of this race has shifted quite a bit with that crash early on. Now it seems like people are a little more content and say, well, if we want to be crazy, let's get real crazy. Why sit around? You know, and he's on board with Bryce Osier, who was just involved in that last crash, nearly hooks Kevin McAdams into turn 1. That's that handling. You saw how the car slid up the hill. It wasn't turning. That's why he's checking way out of the throttle here. He did a good job not to hit the 26, but Carmen, I can't help but say this is about half the cars we just saw all wad up and waste their fast repairs already about to do it again.
Yeah, this is sort of figuring out for those that feel confident. This is figuring out where the limits are going to be with this field. You're figuring it out early and you're figuring out the hard way. This is also important. Everyone feels there's an impending sense of doom. It's like uncanny valley when you're this far deep in the field. The only thing you can do is move forward. You don't want to sit, you don't want to ride, because you feel like you're waiting for a crash to happen that you just can't avoid, right? Mm-hmm. We've had a lot of major crashes in the duels that were just huge, never-ending crashes. You don't want to be in that situation where you just can't go anywhere. So you figure
trouble, one car in the wall there.
That's the 47, the Quebec City native.
Yeah, he's gonna hold on to it there, but a bit of a bad bump, trying to pull out of line there. Sent the 47 in the wall, but he does a great job to keep it moving forward. I also wanted to note the number 14 car puff of smoke out of turn number 2 as well. So the handling going away in the corners for the number 14, but just a bad bump there that turned the 47. But it looks like he's gonna keep it pointing in the right direction, not the big backup we saw a handful of laps ago, which is good news.
And we talked about this obviously in the pre-race, and obviously we talked about it during the caution. These tires are going to wear. These Goodyear tires, not the same as they felt a year ago under the lights here last year. It's a lot hotter, 55 degrees hotter to be precise. We're closer to 135 degrees Fahrenheit, the track temp.
Oh, there goes McAdams sideways. Sorry to cut you off, but the middle lane.
Dancing, and then you have some latency there as well from the car in front of the 47. You're going to have that throughout this race, and you got to manage it. But you look at how fast they're going. That's out of turn 4.
Yeah, that's out of the corner.
Speed.
McAdams is really going risk reward here. He is making a lot of, I wouldn't say low percentage moves, but a lot of high risk maneuvers this early in the race, and it's working. He is gaining positions, but this is about the second or third time he's almost been hooked or spun out. The 26 is, he's going to see Goddard the checkered flag on lap 20 here. He's making moves. You can't knock him for that, but it is getting very, very hairy in the mid-pack. And look at this. We got Emily Howe, former reigning winner of this race, with Brennan McGee right there in the middle. Some very strong contenders right in the heart of the hurricane. Yeah,
look at those veterans all in the middle of the racetrack there. That's Doucette. That's Mauricio. I believe that's Corey Cook.
Yes.
In the middle? No, it's Lautenschlager.
Corey Cook just a touch behind them. Yeah.
Yeah, he's just behind them. That was the black and blue machine just behind there. That's actually Austin Reedy, who is Craig Lautenschlager's teammate in this race. Lautenschlager did not make it into this race. So the 11 car is in his place instead, and you look at how much they're side drafting that inside lane. Mauricio just hopping in and out. That's Cole Hooper ahead of him, and Cole Hooper's like, okay, we'll dance. So Mauricio's going to follow the 34 here, and they're going to try to challenge Nate Stewart, the pole sitter, for that race lead to complete lap 21. Here comes Doucette.
Yeah, here comes Doucette, but I also want to point out 8-lap older tires than everybody else. Vlad Tokarev still inside the top 5. That performance advantage not as bad of an issue as maybe we were thinking. He's handling it very well. That clean air is a big advantage because you can just kind of ride. You'll see they're single file for about the first 4 or 5 cars now, and then we have that hornet's nest behind them. So Mauricio and Doucette, they've worked together plenty of times before. They're going to try and keep doing that here. You can see there goes, I think that's Brandon McKissick in the 52 now, and Jose Solis Jr. Those two have worked together a lot in the last decade. And here you can see Doucette trying to take the run. Mauricio didn't really feel confident in it. That 51 car almost found a hole.
It's funny, following along with McKissick and with Solis and with Emily Howe, the way they've been decompressing throughout this weekend, they've been running the fixed IndyCar series in Texas. Jose Solis Jr.
Decompressing.
Jose Solis Jr. a year ago was 7,000 I rating. He has lost 2,000 I rating this week.
Well,
he is below 3,500 I rating right now. It has been a rough time for Jose Solis Jr., but that is their way of decompressing, because now it is fully focused. You are locked in right now. The only chance you really get to breathe is under caution or pit stops. We haven't had one now in about 20 laps, so everyone's really holding on tight here. But it shows, I mean, it works. He's got himself to the front of the field here, and that's so hard to, just that part of the battle is so hard to do, as you look at Nate Stewart leading 16 laps now of the Winstel 400.
Yeah, that's another thing I want to point out. People can look at this and go, oh, well, it's just ovals. It's just big Daytona. You just go fast and turn left. Then explain to me why Nate Stewart's led over half of the laps so far. Why was he on the pole position? Why has he been in control of this race with Alex Kolonix pretty much from the drop of the green flag? There is a level of talent here. There's not different setups. Ooh, as we see there, McKissick nearly get out of shape. They're all running the same equipment. Everybody is on the same setup. So explain to me how we tend to see the same drivers at the front in all these events, Carmen. It's not just luck. You need to have a little bit of it, but driver talent really shines, especially when the tires wear out like this.
It is 100% a talent thing. I used to say, as someone who is, I have been very open that I am an IndyCar fan. I get flack for it all the time. I used to have the opinion, plate racing just wasn't it. It isn't until you actually get it and you start winning races and you start understanding the strategies and just the intensity of this race. I would have loved to have set up someone on our second Twitch channel with a heart monitor.
Yeah.
Just because my heart rate reached 122 in the first heat race when we were 3 wide. My heart rate's not been that high in Indy 500s ever. So, but that's how intense it gets here when you're 3 wide and your margin for error is 6 inches or less. It is insane. Obviously, they've got a little bit more margin for error right now, especially if you're at the front of the field like Stewart is. But if you're someone who is in the middle of the pack, like Mauricio, like Emily Howe, like Jose Solis Jr., and Nick Doucette, the list goes on, not so easy to do. It takes a lot of talent to do that, and these cars, again, we're going north. fastest time, fastest speed trap in this race alone, 216 miles an hour.
Yeah,
We've not been that fast here at the Speedway in 15 years.
More than that, I'd say probably closer to 25 years since we've seen any speeds like that, maybe even 30, honestly. I don't know, I'm getting old, it's hard to keep up with that, but no, you can see Ryan Doucette kind of getting shuffled out. Things starting to calm down a little bit as the tires start to wear. We're getting close to our first round of pit stops, but it's really, really interesting to see all these dynamics play out. But the other thing to also keep in mind, you know, the dynamics here are always going to stay changing, and especially with speeds like this, you're always going to have to try and keep up with the car. We were 3 wide about 3 laps ago. Now it's back to 2 by 2, but we see this outside line trying to make a run. It'll be interesting to see how this inside line copes with that. And also keep in mind, Vlad Tokarev stayed out on that first caution. He'll have to pit way before the rest of this group. So look for him to peel off just a little, in just a little bit. We'll see how long he can stay out, but we got a new leader here, Hooper to the front with a big push from Mauricio and Brendan McGee.
Cole Hooper, debutant in the Winstel 400, leads his first lap in the Winstel 400. And that's always a good feeling as well. Got a little bit of help there from Gabriel Mauricio. Jumped to the inside lane ahead of Stewart. Always, you can't really go wrong there, but here goes Stewart. Because he knows who's on the outside waiting. Yeah,
absolutely, and he does not want to sit in the back. He wants to try and lead every lap of this race if he can help it. And now Mauricio, still looking for an invitation to the front couple rows, going to go ahead and push Stewart. But Stewart, you saw there, he got tight. That's probably the fastest he's been pushed since we went back to green flag racing, almost like he wasn't ready to go into the corner that fast. He's going to try and command that outside line, though. He will take the lead back this time. Mauricio going to stick with him for now, but Cole Hooper does get credited with leading that last lap, so add him to the books as well.
Yep, that's Nate Stewart, Cole Hooper, Alex Kolinix, Vlad Tokarev among the race leaders in this event so far. We are approaching lap 30 quickly. Tokarev's got a pit stop here in the next 5 or so laps as things pull off here. Since last pit stop there, obviously most of the field has been at pit in 21 laps ago. They pit on lap number 8. Tokarev has not pit yet in this race. Your fuel number gets you to about between lap 32 to lap 35 is the estimated pit window here that we've got for Tokarev. So he's going to come in here within the next 5 to 7 laps, give or take. Starting lap 30 now, once again in the hands of Nate Stewart, but Gabriel Mauricio doing his thing. The winner of the season opener last year for the Winstel Cup Series, back out front in Daytona following the Pulsatrix.
Yeah, look at all the countries we're seeing up here. It is a predominantly American field, but we got Mauricio from Brazil, Brendan McGee from Canada, and we've already talked about Vlad Tokarev from Isle of Man. Is Mo Perry on the back straightaway there, pulling back onto the surface. Just because there aren't very many drivers from out of the States, it doesn't mean they're slow, because most of them are sitting in the top 10 right now.
Absolutely. We have 3 Canadians, 2 Brazilians. Leandro Moreira sitting stationary right now in the 21st position. Lucas Davila from Argentina, they're in 22nd as well, just kind of taking his time. We got Nick Doucette, we got Giles Chatelain, Charles Collignon from France, and the Swiss state, Switzerland there for Chatelain. So, pretty expansive field here for the Winstel 400. A lot of them debutants. Davila making his first start, same with Chatelain and Collignon. So,
I was really impressed with Lucas Davila's performances over the last couple of days to get in this race. He seems to have really come out and put on a great show, and I think he may be a factor towards the end of this thing if he can keep his nose clean. And boy, as much as I miss seeing that out the windshield, I really don't miss seeing that out the windshield, Carmen. It is always a hornet's nest up there. This is what it's like to sit in the mid-pack in this race, and this is the calm state right now. They're not even 3 wide right now, and it already looks a bit hectic. So, man, I'm getting too old for this. But Corey Carpenter to the front with a little bit of help from his friends, as I think Cattell took the lead and jumped down to the bottom. They were working together, the teammates. Now they're catching the lapped car, the number 60. But both Cattell and Carpenter, the teammates, worked their way on the outside line to the bottom and now back to the top, and they're together once again out front. New leader.
And you notice Tristan Baker, that 60 car, moved to the below the yellow line. You can do that to drop back. You cannot do that to get forward. We talked about it in the pre-race. The yellow line's out of bounds. You could use it in qualifying. You cannot use it in the race. If you get in position below the yellow line, you have to give it back within 3 laps or serve a black flag penalty, serve a drive-through. And we've seen that at the end of races be race killers for some drivers. Corey Carpenter, now the new leader. And he's got a who's who behind him there. Stewart and Cattell, both of them looking absolutely outstanding. Same with Mauricio and Cole Hooper, who just recently left as well.
Absolutely, and I really think Nate Stewart is probably going to be the guy to beat tonight. He has been strong all weekend. He's been strong in qualifying with pole. He put up a great lap again in the qualifying, even though he didn't need to. He's led most of the laps so far. Granted, it's early, but every time he's gotten past Carmen, he just jumps back to the outside lane, hooks up with somebody, and finds a way back. I don't think he's coming here to float to the front, then to the back, then back to the front again. He is here to lead, sit in the front. I know I mentioned it already, but he has been so strong, not just tonight, but this whole week leading up to this. And in all the tests he's ran, he's been one of the ones to watch. As Gabe Mauricio now goes to the front and puts Brazil atop the boards.
Again, who's at the front of the field? Mauricio, obviously one of the more, I think one of the most well-respected members of the Winstel community, just in general. He knows how to win here at Daytona. It was so fun watching him win the season opener in the Winstel Cup Series last season. Just seeing the moves that he was making, he was so confident and so precise in that. And in a field of just shooters, Mauricio is one of the more straightforward ones, and it's so fun watching him race. And we don't get to see Nate Stewart and Brandon Cattell race very often on our screens, but when we do, it's always magical to see them as well. Put them all together and just let them cook. That's what we're getting right now, and it looks fantastic. And keep an eye, look at Brennan McGee in the top 5. Flu game. He got the IV. He got that fluid injection. He is good to go. He is up there and just ahead of Emily Howe, it looks like.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, this is a track, you know, the cars may be pixels, but you mentioned 120 BPM heart rate. Probably just went up a little bit for Nate Stewart there in the 67. The emotions are very real, and the focus it requires as Brendan McGee gets sideways is very real, and it took a lot of effort to keep that car underneath him. Even though he's sick, it's especially because he's sick, that is a well-done lad for the Canadian, and he didn't even miss a beat, Carmen. He gets right up behind Gabe Mauricio and just starts pushing him instead.
I feel like he was, I don't know if he was trying to get down below Mauricio,
I don't know.
Or if he got a bad bump from Emily Howe and just kind of saved it and made it look good. But that could have gone 9 different directions.
We got a car in the wall.
The safest way, that's the 20, that is Zach Robinson.
And is that Butler again?
Whoa,
on the very outside lane there? I think it is Butler for a second time. He was also in the fence as well. So the 20 and the 33 car getting into contact there, that might be really bad news for Butler.
They got checked up too.
Yeah, so everything stays green for now, but a huge smack to the wall. And here comes Vlad Tokarev has to pit now as well with the, he's run out of fuel on his pit strategy.
Yep, just beyond 35 there. So he was right on market there with the number that we had for our pit window. So going into this race.
The field's spread out a bit, but it doesn't look like anyone's completely lost the draft other than the damaged vehicles. I wonder if we can get a look.
The one that lost the most. Kalinian lost a little bit there.
We might lose one or two back there, but
yeah,
I'll be interested to see if we can get a replay of that, because it was around the 20 and the 33. It looks like Butler's actually gotten back into the pack, so I think he's straightened the car out. It looked like he had maybe some suspension damage, but he seems to have held on to the pack.
I wonder if he was dropping back and Robinson wasn't sighted on that. I wonder what was going on there.
Could be. We'll work on trying to see what happened there, but in the meantime, Mauricio and McGee out front. Pit stops coming soon for the first round of green flag pit stops. Again, Vlad Tokarev not having an issue. He stayed out under the first caution, simply out of fuel right now.
Okay, let's see if we've got that replay here. Give us a second. I believe we may have something here, and I think this is going to be it.
Oh, there it is. Yeah,
and there it is.
And that was in the wall there. Is it the...
So someone put Butler in the wall, and it caught Robinson off.
See, they're 3 wide here. It's a little bit ahead.
I think that's McKissick. That's 52 McKissick, I believe.
I think it was a blue and a black car that did it. McKissick was in the middle, but I don't think that's where the wreck started. Meanwhile, there's still 2x2, still green flag conditions out front, but you'll see it's right there. The 43 ahead. Comes up a little bit and bumps the car in the middle. I'm trying to figure out who that car in the middle is. Is that the 17
That's the 11,
car?
Austin Reeder.
It's the 11.
Yeah.
And that we got a crash. We're crashing.
Whoa, trouble.
Big crash. It's big. Most of the field collected in turns 1 and 2 to bring out the second caution of tonight. Mauricio is involved. McGee is involved. That's Jose Solis backwards. That's everyone. Caution is out.
A lot of trouble here. big crash. We'll get a replay of this here momentarily, but that is a majority of the field because it took place at the front of the field. And when you're mid-corner like that, you're not going anywhere.
Looks like Kirk Marble, Eli Sasick, and Kevin McAdams might be the only ones who got through that. Nate Stewart, Carpenter, Emily Howe, I think, gets through. But this is the field that missed the wreck. This is who's coming back to take the flag here on lap number 40 to bring out the second caution of the day. Kirk Marble inherits the lead.
I wonder if there was pit stops coming in, because remember, there was only a 7-lap difference.
Well, it was in 1 and 2, so... something happened to Mauricio. Nate Stewart got clocked pretty hard on the nose there. Mauricio was sideways before this. I don't know. Oh, who's that moving down?
Let's see if we can get a better,
maybe better angle
from this. Oh, that's
looks like Sasick might have moved out from behind Kirk Marble and may have made contact with Mauricio, but let's see if we get a better look at this.
Now let's see. This is the freeze frame here, so see if we can get a chopper cam for Sasick, because Sasick tries to clear himself off Mauricio, it looks like.
Yeah, I think Sasick was trying to push Kirk Marble, because you can see they're doing a 2-car tandem here. Let's take a look at it. Number 40, Mauricio on the bottom, the silver and red, and oh my goodness, Sasick just clears himself, and I hate to say it, but
that's going to be a penalty
out the whole field.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, Krobach gets in his second one of the day. Nick Doucette involved. These drivers, most of them have a fast repair. There's Brandon Cruz-Montsevice in it as well.
Very important for some of those that were involved in the first accident. There's Saucier and GT Hawkins. They got away
Aaron
with
Smith
that.
Gets away with it. This is on board with Brandon Cruz-Montsevice. Started very back of the field with a provisional. You can see it just all kicks off here, and this is the most helpless feeling in all of NASCAR, is when you're doing everything you can. He gets hit from behind, it looks like.
That was by Boisford. That's 47.
There's just nowhere you can go when it's a track blocker, and I'm very curious whether Eli Sasick has a spotter in-game or an actual in-person spotter, because frankly, it wasn't close.
No.
This is on board the number 60, who kind of gets caught on the banking, but I don't think hits anything, so a good avoidance there, and good job to keep the car pointed.
He hit someone square in the bumper at going into it, because he was getting locked up, and someone just locked up before he did.
Yeah, but it doesn't look like
overall,
terminal at all. On board here, you see where this is, Montsevice gets involved in that wreck there. This is on board Mauricio, so yeah. Yeah, so this is on board with Tristan in the number 60. To see the 70 car gets through it, the 54 does not. So this is Tristan Baker's view as the number 14 head. There you see the wreck, and it's not great. Yeah, there's the contact to Davila.
Yeah.
But it's not too bad for either of them. You see Davila goes to the grass to avoid it.
Davila's like, I'm already down here.
Might as well. And the 60 car kind of just surfs on the banking. Does a good job not to get beached. This is on board now with the 33 of Sean Butler, who's already used a fast repair tonight. Bringing out the first caution of the day, and it just pops off in front. See if he gets through. Little contact with Virgil. Oh my goodness.
So close. That's repairable, though.
Yeah, that's not terminal.
Unfortunately, he won't get the free pass, but he wasn't first in line for that free pass anyway.
I think he was luckier to not get too much damage out of that. You saw some cars jumping through. I think it'd be easier to say, Carmen, who wasn't in this one.
Yeah, and they're mostly at the front of the field. Marble, McAdams, Carpenter, among those that were not involved. Tyler Murray wasn't involved. He was behind it all.
So the second caution of the day brings our second big one of the day. Unfortunately, this one much larger than the first. Now, this really, I think, is going to benefit who we saw dive down pit lane.
Vlad Tokarev.
Was Vlad Tokarev. He got himself out of the field, and now he sits. I think he may have lost a lap.
He is a lap down, yes.
Because of the green flag pit stop, but he avoids all the melee. Which he was running about 10th or 11th. Carmen absolutely would have been the first one cleaned out in that. So strategy that doesn't work sometimes helps you out.
Yeah, he's got a chance now. There's a lot of cars a lap down. Tucker the first, then it's Robinson, Baker, Butler, a lot of those that have had damage. Mauricio and Brendan McGee both had the tow. Now, to kind of follow up on this, because we didn't talk about it before we went green, each driver had one fast repair to use during this race. Obviously, Kristina mentioned Sean Butler used his, so now he's got manual repairs to do from this point forward if he's going to get more damage. But most everyone had one. The issue is that for Brendan McGee and for Gabriel Mauricio, they couldn't make it back to pit lane. They had to tow. Yeah. So they had to receive assistance back to pit lane. They are now using that fast repair, but they've lost 2 laps. Same position that Butler was in. They're in, or same position, sorry, that Mo Perry was in, because Mo Perry had the tow. Now
Oh my goodness,
everyone else is
there's-
in too.
Nearly had a collision on the backstretch there. Under caution, but yeah, as they're doubling up, we're getting ready to go back to green flag racing for the third time tonight. But yeah, that was a pretty big one. It's also worth noting, it looks like Corey Cook either has an issue or is retired from this event. Now, he was running up in the front and had avoided most of the calamity, so I'm thinking there was a mechanical issue on the number 61 car, because he is shown on scoring several laps down before the caution had even come out. So I wonder if we can't figure out what happened there shortly after we go green. But for the Corey Cook fans, he was having a nice little race so far, and it appears that now he's fallen 12 laps down, and maybe the first actual retirement of this race. Pace car off though, Carmen. We're about to go back to green flag racing once again. Back in the air for the third time tonight after, what was it, about a 30-lap green flag run. Just before green flag pit stops, we live to see another day before we get to try those out tonight as they get back up through the gears. On board with Craig Lautenschlager.
Yeah, trying to take a drink in between all the madness that we've had so far in this race. Kevin McAdams and Corey Carpenter leading the field right now. And if there wasn't a reset on the vibes in the field, that was it.
Yeah.
Obviously, the first incident that we had on lap 7 was about 6 or 7 cars, not nearly quite enough to be a big one. 32 cars in this one, so a lot more significant, and a lot more drivers now either carrying damage or having to use their fast repair, which puts them on a very fine, thin line for the remainder of this race, and we're only a quarter of the way through.
But I will say that quarter went by a bit quicker than I would have thought. Of course, those 2 crashes we've had have been pretty sizable, especially the one we just had, but it's been a little bit more antsy, it seems like, the start of this 400 compared to last year's 400, where it seemed very orderly. And I think this has to do with, 1, the handling of the cars, and 2, the speeds we're reaching. But Kevin McAdams, we saw him making some big moves in the mid-phase of that last stint, nearly wrecked the car a couple times. It's worked out brilliantly for him. Him and Corey Carpenter lead the field in the 26 Doritos machine on the point right now. But don't take your eyes off of Boyd the third in the 91. He's moving himself up to the front as well. He's that 3rd car on the inside line.
Rocky Boyd's a very interesting character. Got himself wrecked out of the first heat yesterday, or second heat yesterday, but won the second chance qualifier just after that. So it's feast or famine with that 91 car. Now, that being said, we know how good McAdams has been as far as generating runs and generating momentum. He was in the back, in the middle lane before anyone else was doing it earlier in this race. Now he's at the front of the field with a reliable set of hands in Corey Carpenter. But you see the gap between Michael Sturgill, who's leading the outside lane. I do want to say that is the... No, it's not the 3 of Sturgill. Another car.
It looked like he almost got turned there. It was Kirk Marble up there on the outside lane, but they hold on to it. Looking right now at the mid-pack as they come out of turn number 4. Something I want to keep in mind here, Carmen, I think we just saw a car brush the wall. Everybody keeps it in the right direction. Nate Stewart was involved in that big crash. One of the cars that got hit the worst out of that. He's at the very back of the field. He's not been deeper than 5th all night tonight. He seemed to have been a really strong contender. We'll really get to see if that's true or not, as Nate Stewart's going to have to claw his way back from outside of the top 30 now if he wants to get back to the front of this field.
Yeah, he's got to really work on that here. And you see, it almost looks like the intensity is just ramped up now more than ever. That middle lane became a hot spot immediately once we got back to racing. You see the first 5 cars on your screen, single file. Bryce Sos, you're hoping it stays that way. He's trying to stay on the inside lane, stay ahead of the 07 of Kirk Marble.
Yeah, we saw a car below the yellow line. That was Jacob Potak. No issue for the number 66, but as you mentioned, Carmen, the intensity picking up. Jacob Potak won in no part of those festivities. He was simply dropping to the back of the field. He's caught up to the tail end. And that's on board with Jose Solis, nearly making contact with Anthony Krobach, tucked up right now behind the number 43 of James Holzer. And
you see how tight it is, how hard it is to stay in a straight line as well.
For sure.
You're just buffering in that air. There's Justin Malillo, there's Nick Pressey behind, there's Brandon McKissick to his quarter panel.
Lots of different stories here. A lot of drivers who had no issues locking themselves in, and then you have guys like Justin Malillo who, on a last gasp Hail Mary, avoids the carnage to get themselves locked in. Boy, oh boy.
And you see Jose Solis right in the middle of it. Had the checkup out of it. Only had the checkup to a very slow 196 miles an hour. So that's you out of the throttle here at Daytona. That is lightning quick.
Yeah, this setup has been absolutely insane for pace. It was designed to be hard to drive, so when these drivers are sliding up, that's the goal, and it really has provided some great racing, but I think that's why we're seeing some drivers struggle a little bit. It seems to be a bit harder to drive than it was last year because of those extra speeds, and I think we're going to hopefully, towards the end of this race, we'll see more drivers fully understanding that. There's a big difference between the drivers that were at every test session over the past 2 months and the drivers who kind of just rolled up and maybe are getting their first real taste yesterday during the duels of what this setup can do. It takes a while to get dialed in. But of course, that safety net of the fast repair really coming in handy for several drivers. But right now, Kevin McAdams and Corey Carpenter out front.
Doing a fantastic job here in Daytona. We're approaching lap 50 here momentarily. Corey Carpenter, obviously teammates there with Brandon Cattell. A little bit separated now, not quite where they want it to be. Alex Kolonix has made his way back a little bit closer to the field. He's in 6th now, behind Bryce Saucier.
Huge momentum through the middle with James Holzer and Jose Solis. Yeah. I saw it out of the commentary box off into turn 3. They're hooked up in the middle with Krobach. I think they're trying to... I don't think they necessarily want to be in this group that's trying to line up in the middle and make some momentum. So watch that STP machine and that yellow Joey Logano Pennzoil Ford in the middle. They've been making some moves down the backstretch last time by.
It's very interesting, and having been in this throughout situation and been in this group, when you're on your own, Kristina, you mentioned it, you're kind of stuck in the sucker hole, like where
Sasek is right now.
Right, where Sasek is right now, and no one's going to help Sasek because of what happened to cause the big one.
Yeah. Well, your friends are where you find them, because you can see Corey Cook gets there. That's Cattell jumping down. So people want to get out of this middle. We got a car in the grass in the background, I think I saw there, but
yeah, that was a car in the grass. I don't know who that was.
I don't think that was Potak, maybe again. I don't see Potak in the group now. I think there he is. Maybe it was Potak that went through the grass there, because he's off the pace now.
Yeah, interesting there for the 66 who won the last qualifier.
Yeah, we just saw him willingly drop back, so I wonder if
he's having issues. Oh yeah,
goodness.
He's having issues.
Something.
100% he's having issues. That's bad.
Looks like the screen froze. He does a great job to hang on to it and get it back on the banking beforehand, but Potak's issues going from bad to worse. He's going to lose the draft now, and that is going to cost him about 15 to 20 miles an hour. A lot. Look, he's already gone. He's not even in frame anymore. But a good save to keep the car moving, at least. Not too much damage to that, just a hurt ego, and hopefully the hardware working all right in the home of the 66 machine. 42 cars still circulating the track. I believe Corey Cook is the only retirement, but I don't know if he's officially retired or not at this point. But
I don't think he wasn't, because we saw him. He was lined up with Sasek.
Yeah, so something I think mechanical was wrong. Oh, we got trouble. Cook in the wall and Cattell.
Speaking of which, and that's another big accident there. That's Tokarev involved. Sturgill trying to get away from it.
Hal picks her way through. Cattell is destroyed on the top lane. He's sliding down the apron. He can't even keep that car up there.
It looks like that's minimized to about 4 to 5 cars somehow, some way. But Cattell, one of the favorites, another one of the favorites, in big trouble here.
Sturgill's got some pretty significant damage. You can see the racetrack underneath that car. You really want these cars to try and stay level. Cattell does get rolling. You can just barely see him big wheeling it in the background, but he's got some significant damage. Now, it all started with Sean. I think Sean Butler may be out of this race, because he was the first car that got turned around, and he took a hellacious hit to that outside retaining wall. It looks like Cattell's going to have to tow.
Cattell's going to have to tow. Yeah, this is not good. This is him getting out of the way. Yeah, I don't think he can even really steer that car.
I wonder if he's going to try to bring it back to try and avoid the tow time. But this is where it is.
Man. That is
Nate Stewart involved.
Turning. Yeah, this Cattell turning the 33 at Butler.
Yeah, I think trying to push him there, and gave a bad bump. We'll take another look at it here. Trying to push Sean Butler through the middle. They're 3 wide. That's Sturgill on the outside.
And nowhere for Tokarev to go.
Nowhere for Stewart to go. You'll see Anthony Krobach, big fan esports machine, the green and white on the bottom. He gets a piece of it, but keeps going. Yeah, it turns Butler up into Sturgill, and there's just nowhere for Sturgill to go. It turns him right around Tokarev. You're just a passenger here. Sasek gets a huge piece of it from Tokarev sliding down the track. Sturgill gets hit again.
And that's something that's, I think, really hard to kind of...
On board with Emily Howe.
Because bump drafting is so important in this, but when you have a bad bump going into the corner, when it loads up like that, it's unsavable. It's completely unsavable, and it's for every generation of stock car. When you bump like that, when you go from like 3 degrees of banking to 30 degrees of banking, the way the car just leans on that right side is so rough. So if Cattell was really pushing Sean Butler, obviously
Trouble in the
they can
pit
get away
lane.
with it
Trouble in the
more.
pit lane. A
Oh,
car around. Only one car around. It was the number 5 machine. Saucier doesn't hit anything, but he did just get turned on pit road as we're on board with Cattell, and you could see how that bump happened there. Just trying to push. Obviously not intentional, but just got on the wrong end to push, and it just dumps Butler. There's nothing Butler can do in that scenario. You saw Emily Howe, we were on board with her. She made light contact with the wall, very slight damage, nothing that can't get bent out in the pit stop here, if any at all, honestly. Very light contact for her, but Cattell tried to get it moving and couldn't. This is Cattell. He tried to get around. I think he might have made it to pit lane. He's going to hit this bump. There's a big mound of dirt here in turn 4 where the tunnel turn is.
Oh, yeah.
No, he doesn't quite make it.
Yeah,
he's... Well...
You can get service backwards in your pit box. You just can't be sideways in your pit box.
Well, I don't know. Now, the reason why he's doing this, folks, is that if you hit the button to tow, this is live, I think.
Yeah,
so this is him just now getting around. If you hit the button to tow, we were talking about it. A couple drivers, oh goodness. You'll lose easily 2 laps. Cattell trying to avoid that. It looks quite silly, but this is saving him a decent amount of time to get that fast repair. I think he'll only lose 1 lap, if that, in this, albeit amusing, but I promise you there's good strategy there. We mentioned the incident with the 5. Yeah, Saucier got turned in the pits. I don't think he hit anything, but he will lose plenty of positions as he got spun on his entry to his pit box.
Yeah, because he was in the top 5, and now I have a chance to actually talk about this. So the pit lane for Daytona is not the way it used to be. They updated the pit lane. So Daytona used to be able to hold 43 cars in a line consecutively for the longest time. That was the Daytona 500 field for the longest time. NASCAR moved down to 40 cars for their Cup Series field. That was the most you can have. They reconfigured the pit lane to fit 40 cars. If you're 41st, 42nd, or 43rd in the starting grid, you now share the pit box with the top 3. So it is a bit of a nightmare. So if there's a lot of confusion, especially if you're unsighted and you don't know that because it was changed between last year and this year, if you've not had a chance to actually experience that, there's going to be a lot of initial confusion looking for your pit box. Saucier was one of those, did not qualify well for this race, might have been searching for his pit box or someone else was looking for their pit box, not realizing Saucier was coming to his. So we'll see. Obviously, we're coming to green here, I believe, here very shortly.
I think we may have just delayed the green flag an extra lap here because we got several cars trying to go around. I have good news for Sean Butler fans, by the way. Despite that hellacious slam and being out of fast repairs, they have somehow put that 33 car back together. He's only 1 lap down. And because of that extended caution, they are currently bringing his car back into service, but he is out and rolling, so his night is not over. It's just going to be very difficult from here. Nate Stewart, another one of those drivers in pit lane, the dominant car of the weekend so far, caught in the back, caught up in an incident again as a result of being in the back. He's still rolling, but he's trying to repair damage as well. I think he's trying not to use his fast repair, and he's trying to save that for a doomsday scenario. Michael Sturgill on pit lane repairing the number 3 car. He's still rolling. I don't think, which I wouldn't have believed you, I don't think we've lost anybody from that wreck, which is rather incredible because while not many cars were involved, they were all repeat offenders. Yeah, and they were all airborne at some point when they made that contact. So we will go another lap before we get the green flag. They called off the green flag. We had several wave around cars that had to get a lap back. So we'll have Corey Carpenter and Kevin McAdams once again lead us around. That's why they're still double file, but you'll see the lights are still on the pace car. And Carmen, we got some upcoming broadcasts here on ABN if you guys are enjoying what you're seeing here in the Winstel 400.
Yeah, obviously, ABN, we had a pretty long winter. We're getting back up to speed here. Obviously, we saw what the weekend has carried with the duels and obviously the 400 here tonight. We don't have a lot of esports stuff coming up until the 19th of January. The ARC's A-Square Cup Series draft. 40 drivers will be selected to make up the 10 teams in the ARC's A-Square Cup Series this season out of 87 different drivers that are in that eligibility pool. Going to be interesting to see who goes onto which team here. The draft is on YouTube at 7 p.m. right here on ABN. ARC's also on AVN on YouTube as well for the 26th, the ARC's A Square Cup Series Clash at Daytona, and then their Daytona Duels for the 500 qualifying on February 2nd, also at 7 p.m. February 8th, the 7th season of the Platinum Endurance Championship. It's the 10 Hours of Spa, beginning at 7 a.m., also on YouTube. Check it out there. It is the premier grade sports car series. It'll be myself, Olivia Hayward, and Taylor Mills in the broadcast booth for that. And then February 15th, V8 Supercars for the first time on AVN television. It's the VRR GT World Tour at Daytona. Olivia Hayward, Taylor Mills, Amity Pulsatrix will be in the booth or in production for that event on February 15th. Daytona 500 weekend, it's going to be none other than at Daytona as well. So a lot of Daytona stuff going on between now and the end of February. Join us for all of that action across Twitch and across YouTube here on ABM. Corey Carpenter, Kevin McAdams controlling this field ahead of Alex Kolonix, who's gotten back up to the top 4. Nick Doucette is in 3rd. You've got row 3 of Lucas Davila and Kirk Marble. Then you have the 43 of James Holzer and the 22 of Jose Solis Jr. Craig Lautenschlager and Rocky Boyd III round out your top 10 as we get back underway. Only one retirement for Corey Cook. 42 cars still running, and the green flag is underway. We're back racing to start lap 57 here at Daytona. Riding on board with the 43 of Holzer.
Corey Carpenter immediately moved down to the inside lane once he cleared.
Yeah, there was a little bit of coordination there, I think. Getting things hooked up there between the 30 and the 26. Leave the 75 out to dry a little bit here. Noting they aren't teammates, but considering Brandon Hayes-Catella was in the pit lane fixing that car, you see him at the very tail end of the field. Yeah. Right now, we know that Carpenter and McAdams worked well together a little bit earlier, so they're finding their friends and working with them here. Here's Alex Kolonix outside pole sitter with a push from Kirk Marble, trying to take the lead back for the first time in a while. Look at that push from McAdams to Carpenter to stay in the front of the field. Fresh tires, the inside lane's going to prevail pretty well. That outside lane will have to have a little bit more manpower to begin to overwhelm that inside lane, but that outside lane will wear those tires out a lot quicker. The more they're out there, you see most of the field drop to the inside lane. It's a very small grid on the outside. Everyone, I think, is at this point realized after the 3 cautions, we need to take care of our cars now. We have nothing left if we lose this.
Absolutely, but there you see a couple cars jumping to the top. One thing I do want to mention, it's a little too early to start doing it now, Carmen, but the outside line will start to be stronger towards the end of this event, and I'll explain why. There's something called side draft. We mentioned a little bit earlier. You can actually see there that gold car of Kolonix doing it a little bit there on the bottom. When you get your car down on that corner panel, it pulls that car beside you back. So we'll see Kolonix, he might move down to the inside and get close to that 91. It might, you can see he's doing a little bit, it slows that 91 down. See how it pulls him off? That's going to make this outside line very strong, because here's the critical thing, Carmen. They may not have the manpower right now, and they're not side drafting aggressively yet because it's quite early and you don't want to cause an incident, but it is so much more effective to get on the right-hand side of a car to pull it back than the left-hand side, and that's why that outside line is so effective, because it can side draft much better with the slight asymmetries in how these cars are built. We're going to see this more and more as the night goes on, but if you see these cars swerving around, it's not because they can't hold a line, it's because they're probably trying to pull the car beside them back, and that's what we see with Morera now in that orange number 41. He tries to move up a little bit and pull that 75 back. We're going to see more and more of that as the race goes on, and it's only going to get more and more aggressive. And I guarantee you, Carmen, if they're side-by-side coming out of turn 4, they might as well be dooring each other, because they're going to be trying to do that coming to the line.
We see it so often at Daytona too. Whether it doesn't matter what series we're broadcasting for, what competition it is. At the end of the race, when you can side draft in these stock cars, whether it's the 6th gen cars we're seeing right now or the 7th gen cars we see in ARCs, the side draft is so impeccable. But it's a tool that you have to learn to master when it comes to this stuff. You can't just do it willy-nilly. You have to have some sense of preservation and spatial awareness to make that happen and be successful. As I mentioned before, we have a group of just shooters on this track right now. That's why we only have 1 retirement out of 43 starters in this race, despite 2 pretty significant crashes in this race already. Everyone's pretty well aware of what you can and can't do in these cars. He's just pushing the envelope out of greediness or out of urgency, because some drivers just don't feel comfortable being that far back in the field. Seeing drivers move back and forth, they're further on back in the running order. The top three, though, still consistent. It's Carpenter, McAdams, and Nicholas Doucette running top three. James Holzer, we rode on board with him on that restart. He's leading the outside lane ahead of Alex Kolonix. And then I believe that is, I want to say the 207 of Kirk Marble that's behind him. It is.
It is. And you did mention, Carmen, that one retirement. I have a little bit of info for you from the paddock here. Corey Cook with an internet failure, not a mechanical failure. It is an internet crash for him. He is done for the day. Unfortunately for him, he had a great run going at the time, but he is officially our first retirement from 2025 Winstel 400 with internet issues. So unfortunate for him, and our condolences to the 61 team and their fans.
Obviously a huge hit there for Corey Cook, suffering our version of an electrical failure in this event. He worked so hard to get into this race, got wrecked out of the second duel yesterday, had to race his way in after being spun in the second chance race late last night, had to stay up extra late for that. Just to end up with an internet failure and basically an electrical issue to end his race before he even got to lap 40. Is a gut punch there for him. Aaron Smith running on board with him. Started this race top 5, qualified well. Got spun early on, but he's still in this field. And as you can tell, despite that door contact on the driver's side on that early run when Sean Butler had that engine failure, no damage. That's a really clean looking number 70 at the front, which is what you need right now. You don't need any parachutes attached to that car.
And speaking of Sean Butler, here he comes with Brandon Hayes-Cattell. Maybe they did hook each other going off into turn 1 to bring out the last caution, but they clearly haven't lost confidence in one another. A couple of very seasoned drivers, very successful on the oval side, of course. Sean Butler and Cattell both being Coke drivers, and they're trying to make it work once again through the middle. And Aaron Smith says, listen, I don't have any faster pairs, boys. Get in front of me and out of here.
I don't think he had a choice in that. I think he got side-judged by Cattell. And we talked about, that was a good example of the side drafting you were talking about working so well. That's the parachute effect of being side drafted. It just dumps all the air in Aaron Smith's car. And you see he went from being right behind that group of cars there. I believe that's Eli Sasek ahead of him. It is.
Yeah.
He went from being right attached to him to being 3 car lengths behind.
Emily Howe jumps into this middle lane Emily Howe jumps in this middle lane as well now. So the 3 of them moving as one. Christian Budd, one of the dual winners, also jumping in behind. So there's a lot of heavy hitters in this middle pack now, and they're going to try and start to move forward and make a charge. Emily Howe, last year's winner, has not been at the front yet today. Of course, that's not a big problem. It only matters on lap 160, but she is trying to get herself up to the front for probably the first time today. She's been mostly riding and hanging around with her, not necessarily teammates, but friends and fellow Winstel drivers, and then she's still around them, as you see Jose Solis Jr. and Brendan McKissick in the inside lane. You got Craig Lautenschlager in the 13, and that's AJ Krobach in the 23 up in front as well. But still, Cattell and Butler right behind her, and now we got a lot of drivers jumping to that middle lane, and now the outside's the one that's getting snookered.
Yeah, you're seeing right now just how urgent it is for some of these drivers to try to get back to the front of the field. Emily Howe, the defending race winner. If we get a chance to talk to her under caution, she is our in-race reporter. But right now, it's been a little bit too frantic for anyone to even take a second to breathe.
And I want to point out, you saw that last shot. You notice how the 3 wide group was falling completely off of that 2x2. That's a product of the side draft. And oh my goodness.
Who was that?
That was the number 14.
GT Hawkins cut off Emily Howe as Howe was going to the inside lane as well. And that checked up the 83 big time.
Yeah, they all keep it going in the right direction, but that was absolutely, I don't think that was an intended block. I think that was just an overlap of 2 drivers going for the same spot. Very fortunate that didn't end in another big crash. But no, we saw that 2x2 pack start to pull away from that side draft. But now because of that, they got that little bit of a gap. They got a huge run. And I think that's what precipitated that GT Hawkins Emily Howe near crash, was because of the run that Emily had. I don't think GT even knew that hole was filling up. But Cattell's still in the middle with Butler.
Yeah, right now he's just kind of holding the station there, and I believe that's the 50 of Christian Budd right behind him, and William Boisver. And then Bryce Saucier also in the middle lane right now as things sit, but I think Saucier has the ability to choose whether or not he wants to stay in the middle lane or go up top. I believe that's actually both the Speed Racer cars for Nick Pressey Motorsports. I believe Pressey's down there too.
Sure is, and it's worth noting a funny thing about that. They are teammates, but they are not the same manufacturer. You'll notice that Pressey in a Ford Mustang and Saucier in a Chevrolet Camaro, but they have the same livery, just different colors. So you can still identify them as teammates, but for one reason or another, not the same manufacturer. But they have found each other towards the tail end of the lead group. You see a lot of cars single file behind, probably saving fuel or trying to stay out of the next big crash if one comes. It looks like Cattell and Butler have died down a little bit. They've moved to the inside line. Emily Howe thinking about maybe going to the middle with Christian Budd. But so now, after we were 3x3 for about 3 or 4 laps, now it's back to 2x2. Corey Carpenter still leads over Kevin McAdams, Nick Doucette, and James Holzer. But how about Davila Morera, 5th and 6th, heading up that 3rd row?
Yeah, obviously Gabriel Mauricio had his chance to be the leading Brazilian for a period of time. Now it's in the hands of Leandro Moreira. The South Americans getting some appreciation and some representation in the top 10 once again. Mauricio on the lead lap still, but at the back of the field in 35th, so he is still on the lead lap and rolling around here. But look at Lucas Davila, who was impressive in the duels last night. Trying to be impressive again here. He's in the top 5 after starting this race 21st. And you look just behind. There's James Holzer. Moreira dropping back just a little bit there. That is Rocky Boyd, the 3rd. Just behind Davila on the inside lane there, right next to the white yellow line. And Davila right there behind Nick Doucette. Really good company to be a part of right now.
Absolutely.
Corey Carpenter continues to lead now. He is led north of, I think, 15 laps at this point. And
yeah,
Kevin
not
McAdams
far
is
off.
really content to stay there.
Yeah, he's not far off of starting to challenge with Nate Stewart now for most laps led in this event, who, by the way, Nate Stewart's still running around. He is just slowly trying to work his way back up through the field, though, after getting involved in a couple of back-to-back crashes. He focused mostly on trying to fix that car. He's fallen off of the pack, and you see they're actually about to swallow him up here. So he is still running. He is still in some level of contention, but he has fallen off of the pack and is about to go another lap down.
Now they're going to catch him in a good spot here. They're going to catch him on the back straightaway. So he's got a chance to sort of bow out of the way here because the pack is broken up into 2. Because you saw there's this main pack and there's a single file lane behind. There you go. Really good look there.
Yeah, and to correct myself, he is currently on the lead lap. He's only going to go 1 lap down at this point. So, and they aren't going to catch him here. And the reason why he doesn't just pull out of the way, though, Carmen, is because he's fighting to stay on the lucky dog position now as the first car 1 lap down. And you don't want to lose the draft a second time because it doesn't look like that car is too damaged. It just didn't. It just, for one reason or another, he fell out of the pack. So
remember, he did not use his fast repair, though.
Correct.
So there could be a lot of under the hood issues going on.
Oh, they're wrecking in the inside. Cattell hard in the outside wall. Sasek in it. Butler again. Emily Howe is backwards and into the wall as well now. Stewart gets another piece of it. And the caution is out for the 4th time today. And once again, this time in the tri-oval, where the cars tend to be the most unstable, there's the 34 machine involved. Pretty significant damage on Hooper. He is going to get rolling, though, so he should be able to repair most of that.
Another really hard hit. They were 3 wide to the tri-oval, trying to navigate Stewart, who was he was doing the right thing. He stayed predictable there. It just think about the tri-oval being the most unstable part of the racetrack. It's also where it narrows up the most.
It's what we call these cars get light. They like to get really tail happy, and it looks like Leandro Moreira hits the outside wall, checks up Kirk Marble.
It's not even Stewart's fault there.
Cooper gets into it, and then Sasek and Cattell arrive on the scene. Yeah, Nate Stewart had nothing to do with this. He was doing what he should be. And
Cooper's the one that got turned into him.
I'm very concerned about Brandon Hayes Cattell because he has taken another heavy whack, as does Sasek. And again, Sean Butler. The hits keep coming. I think he's been involved in every wreck tonight.
Yeah, he's been in all but one.
So... And again, with blowing his engine in the first caution, he is out of fast repairs. You see Emily Howe got some significant contact there. I think Bud might have got a piece of that as well. We'll take a look at real time.
Thankfully, Emily Howe has a fast repair in hand, so she's going to be okay.
But you hate to use... Oh, she gets absolutely plowed from behind from Bryce Saucier. Oh, and that's... I wonder if the 20 got a piece of that as well, or if it was just Sasek that took the brunt of the impact on Hooper.
Yeah, that's all really rough there. So another big accident there. This time,
See if we
really
can,
right there at the pit exit.
I'd like to see an onboard of Morera, maybe back it up just a little bit more if we can, to see how Morera got into the outside wall. I wonder if he just got tight.
This
Again,
would be
the
on the
speeds
41.
are very high here.
So if we
Behind
can get
James
a hold of the
Holzer, second
41.
car on the outermost lane, the orange car there.
All right, so this is, there you go, on board here behind Holzer.
They've already cleared Nate Stewart at this point.
Yeah,
so
they're clear Stewart, and he just really drifts up. That's tire wear.
Yeah, it is.
We've gotten beyond that 15-lap range where the tires were beginning to really fall apart there.
And he gets away with this. He doesn't get too much damage.
No, it's everything
pretty much
behind
everything behind him, which unfortunately that's kind of how it tends to go.
And in real time, Cole Hooper's hit just really hurt because he was backwards and then he got spun around after tagging the wall.
Pit stops happening currently live as we see that now. Everybody's scrambling off of pit road. You can see several of the drivers involved. There's Hooper. He's getting repairs, so he seems like he should be okay. I'll keep my eyes out of the commentary box here and look and see damage report of who's still sitting there. I'm sure Nate Stewart's going to repair extra damage because he did get a little bit of contact. Hooper's straight out of the pit lane, so I think he went ahead and took the fast repair and bit the bullet. Emily Howe staying in the pit lane obviously doesn't want to use her fast repair quite yet, so she'll stay in the pit box for quite some time. Nate Stewart out of pit lane. Now this is the interesting thing. I wonder if Brandon Cattell has used his fast repair up here or not. The front clip is back on that car, but I have to say, Carmen, that's the second or third time I've seen Cattell without a front end. So
yeah, because he was involved in another accident with Sean Butler when Butler got turned.
Both the Pressing Motorsport cars in pit lane repairing damage as well. Of course, Saucier slamming in the back. Sorry to cut you off there.
No, you're good. Cattell is not, this is not a fast repair one. This is a manual sit on pit lane and kind of let it tick away. Because there's still a lot of damage there.
We saw him crawl around, reverse, sideways, airborne, rallycross to not use a tow, and it saved him a little bit of time to stay on the lead lap. And now, even though it seems like, well, that didn't matter anyway, he just wrecked again. Well, he's only going to go a couple laps down, if that. Now, instead of going an additional 2 or 3 laps down.
So here's the news on this as well. So as I mentioned before, we got the free pass for the first car a lap down, not involved in an accident. Mo Perry's got his big break. He's back on the lead lap now after being involved in a caution early. In that caution with Sean Butler when he blew his engine, he ended up going a lap down because he had the tow. So this is actually his second waiver, his second free pass. So he's now fully back on the lap in 35th for all those supporting the 28 car who made it as a reserve.
Yeah, I didn't know he was even racing until 5 minutes before qualifying took place tonight. Sean Butler and Brandon Hayes-Cattell stuck in the pit lane here, so they will lose laps again, unfortunately for them. It looks like the same is for Bryce Saucier and Eli Sasek as they continue to sit on pit lane. And it's worth noting as well that Brennan McGee is coming down pit lane this time around for some additional service. Yes. So 75 of 160 in the books, Carmen, and it has been it's been exciting. There's been a lot of really intense racing, which we probably didn't expect to see so early, but the caveat to that is we've seen a lot of wrecks in the early portion of this race.
It's been frantic. We had a little bit of everything. The only thing we've not had is a full green flag pit cycle just yet. We had a partial one in the early stages of this race. EOL being given to Leandro Morera for his cause of that accident. Basically unforced error there for the 41. So 35 cars on the lead lap. We only have 1 car still officially out of this race. Cattell and Butler still trying to sit in and persevere through this. Actually, it looks like Sean Butler, I believe, might actually officially be out of this race. Second double check here. He is not
left
on
the pit
track.
lane, so I think he has retired the car, or at least is going to be out of contention for quite some time. We'll get back to once we have an official withdrawing of the 33, but it's unfortunate, but that's almost expected. He's been in so many incidents today. Unfortunately, that 33 car has been tough, but I think he ran out of lives here as we get ready to go back. Green flag on pit lane real quick. Eli Sasek and Cattell still in the pits, but Cattell just got out of the pit box, so he will be on the apron on the green flag here, as is Sasek, who just got released as well. Pace car off.
Yeah, it's James Holzer and Anthony Krobach leading the field to green. We're back underway to start lap 76. 2 cars out, Butler and Cook, 41 cars still rolling. Winstel 400 has been every bit as chaotic as we expected it would under the sunshine of the Florida sun.
I'm interested to see, Carmen, how they're going to catch Cattell, because he'll be in the middle of the backstretch right about now. I'm looking out of the commentary box. He's headed into turn 3 now. They will catch him pretty quickly.
Yes.
As he gets up through the gears. You saw they passed Eli Sasek before they even got to turn 1, so no issues there. But right now, look at Anthony Krobach to the lead with a push from Corey Carpenter. Big Fan Esports, the team owned by Davin Cornelius. It's not even a team, it's just a little collection of dudes. Krobach raced himself into this event, and now he's going to lead laps in the Winstel 400 with a huge push from James Holzer. How about that?
Really good job there. Sean Butler is out, not out of his own volition. A technical issue has dropped him out of this race. So insult to injury.
Yeah. I think all the gods are pointing at it not being his day, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, that is the case. Here comes Kevin McAdams, front of the field. Goes to the outside lane, trying to side draft off of Holzer and get the crow back here. Remember, he was pushing Carpenter for most of that middle stanza.
Yeah, rolls
before that last caution.
Friends are where you find them, Carmen. Again, Cattell down in the dumps right now and about to get lapped by the field. So Carpenter without a wingman right now, and it seems like he's found a best friend in McAdams, at least for this early portion of the race. But it still is headed by Anthony Krobach on the Canadian Grand Team. And that's a feel-good story. Krobach, one of the nicer. You guys talked to him in the pre-race show. He's just excited to be here and have a good time and leading the field. And look at this. This is what you don't want to see in your mirror, is Brandon Cattell about to be swallowed up.
Laps down. Yeah.
He is rolling, though, critically. And with how things have been, he could get those laps back eventually. But the field's going to navigate pretty handily, at least the first few rows. They're 3 wide behind. That's the 20 car getting up on the outside wall.
Sketchy there. That's Robinson, his second excursion with the outside wall there. Now 3 wide with Mauricio.
Yeah, everybody keeps it pointed. Now we'll really see how much damage is on Cattell's car. It looks like he's caught up in the draft, and he's going to be okay, but
he's ahead, I believe, of the 97 right there in the middle of that pack there.
Yeah, he has blended in, which is that's what Nate Stewart was trying to do when that caution came back out. So it looks like there is pace in the number 80 machine, but he's just lost a lot of time with the towing.
The body of the car looks okay. Obviously, with as many impacts as Cattell's had, he's running 203 miles an hour, lifting, getting out this 196, still looking good. So obviously, it looks like engine's still pretty well intact there. Those Camaro 01 engines, pretty robust here.
Worth noting in that exchange, Kevin McAdams goes back to the front, but look at Davila on the top lane with a push from that wily GT Hawkins, who was making some big moves earlier. That outside lane is full of underdogs, with Kirk Marble is there as well, and I think it's that Handcamp in the 95?
Yeah, Jalen Handcamp in the 95. Kirk Marble, I feel bad for him. He's been the bridesmaid on that outside lane. He's always pushing somebody. He's not been able to lead that outside lane, I don't think, ever in this race so far. But he was
in the lead at one point. Remember, he took the lead when the huge one happened in turn 1 because his dance partner had contact. So
yeah,
Lucas Davila, the Argentine driver, on the outside lane, getting an awesome shove right now from GT Hawkins. They're going to try and take it to Krobach, who's now third in lane, and try and get up there with Corey Carpenter, McAdams, who have seemed to been the Pied Pipers in the second stanza of this race since we've lost Nate Stewart at the front.
I'm really impressed, though, too, because Davila did a really smart thing. He pinched them down on the exit.
Yeah, he's side drafting on exit.
Off of 4 and then bounce back up. He's doing a really smart thing right now. Obviously, a veteran here of plate racing, obviously drawn into the Winstel 400, not just for the prize first, but you see the talent that's in it. Davila's blending in really nicely here. Really smart, just picking and rolling out of the corner and getting away before he can be side drafted back in return. Really smart stuff there, and it helped them. They got clear of Krobach. Now trying to get to the quarter panel of McAdams here. Really impressed, though, by Davila, who's about to have a really important decision to make. Middle or outside lane, where do you want to go? Because there, look at the 80, you can tell. Yeah, that car's fine.
It doesn't matter if he's 3 laps down or leading the race. He is here to race people. That's all he has ever known his whole career, and he's trying to get those laps back the old-fashioned way. But look at this, Lucas Davila on the outside lane for his home country, the only one from Argentina in this field. Going to go around the outside. He may not lead the lap quite yet, but he is leading the Winstel 400 with a massive shove from GT Hawkins as they go into turn 3.
Yeah, Davila trying to play both lanes here. Cattell in the middle, leading the middle with Gabriel Mauricio following, and Nate Stewart back in the top 10.
Oh, Davila trying to fill that middle lane, and Cattell's going to stick with him. Look at that. He made a shot. But now here comes GT Hawkins on the outside because Cattell had to crack the throttle to let Davila down. It's everybody behind Kevin McAdams right now.
And McAdams has a mere full 3 wide, 5 rows deep. Make it 6 rows deep for the lead. Here we go. 3 wide, Hawkins up top. Davila in the middle, McAdams down low. Outside lane's got the momentum. And you see cars everywhere further behind.
This is not showmanship. This is not fuel saving. This is pure 210 mile an hour speed. 3x3x3 for the lead of this race. And GT Hawkins with a shove from Kirk Marble's going to go to the front of the field, but he's going to get swallowed up in about 10 seconds here. He got a huge run. He may just lead the lap, but I think Kirk Marble,
right there.
He's going to hold on to just barely lead the lap, but now Kirk Marble getting a push from Davila. It is the underdog show at the front right now.
All the front runners have had trouble in this race. So yeah, the underdogs have had their chance to shine right now. Hawkins, McAdams, Marble, Carpenter, Davila, Handcamp, Krobach, Dietrich. We've not said the 74 of Dietrich's name at all once. We pointed out his car, the Exalted 74. That's the only time we mentioned him in this race.
He was airborne in the grass during the huge one, and now he's sitting in the top 10.
But also keep in mind, there's some familiars there. There's Mauricio, there's Jose Solis Jr. on the outside lane. There are some familiar drivers still in this group running around right now near the top 10, on board with Caden Dietrich right now in the top 10. Inside lane, following Krobach.
I can't get enough of it. He's 3 laps down. He's shoving everybody he can to get back to the front. I fully believe, Carmen, if Cattell can get to the front, he's going to try to stay out there and get a lap back on his own.
Reminds me of another driver that used to drive the number 80 all the time. Trying to put my finger name on that one.
Yeah, doing the number proud, but I think honestly it's his number. He's had more success with it, but he is right now shoving that 95 a hand camp, and they're trying to get that outside line to work. But look at this 4-car breakaway now. Yeah. They've been 3 wide for so long. It's Hawkins, McAdams, Carpenter, and Marble that have pulled away, and now Krobach breaks free of the chains and is going to try and find it and make it a 5-car breakaway. Oh my goodness.
Hip check from, that was the 80 of Cattell and the 74 Dietrich.
And they held on to it, and it's going to benefit right now. Handcamp, he's going to be the leader on the inside line, getting pushed by Dietrich. So good job saving it, everybody there. But they're still losing more time and allowing this group to try and scoot further away. This is what we have with the side drafting going on. But it looks like the 74 and Dietrich have broken, or Dietrich and Handcamp have broken free. They will catch back up as they dump GT Hawkins and send him to the rear. 205 miles an hour into turn 3, and they all try to manage that. It's like single file for like 9 cars now because everybody got so strung out. And now GT Hawkins is going to lose 10 positions in about 500 feet.
Yeah, he went backwards in a hurry. It was a wild time. He is still going backwards on the outside, on the inside lane, excuse me. He's going to get caught up there by James Holzer, who's going to finally give him some reprieve.
Goodness gracious.
Only to be 3 wide with Robinson and Howe.
He was leading the field out of turn 2, and by the time they came out of turn 4, he was barely even in the top 15, and now he almost gets turned out of turn 2 by James Holzer. GT Hawkins went from hero to 0 in about a lapse time, and now is stuck in the middle, trying to find some help with Brandon Cattell. But out front, it's Handcamp in the 95 getting a push from the number 74 of Dietrich to try and get around that 26 of Kevin McAdams. And he will lead this race. Handcamp with the number 95 clears with Dietrich to the bottom in a very close shave, and Jalen Handcamp now on the point in the 2025 Winstel 400.
Outstanding stuff there from Handcamp to get to the front with Dietrich. Dietrich, who got hip checked there, really bad by Cattell, kept his foot in it, stayed the course, and it worked out really well. But now keep an eye out, once again, leading the outside lane. It is the South American connection, the Argentine, Lucas Davila, and Gabriel Mauricio, the Brazilian, outside lane, 86 and 40. It's the asymmetrical car, followed by the Silver Bullet, followed by Jose Solis Jr. Really good running, and look at Cattell, now blending in on the outside lane. And GT Hawkins, I think, is blended in nicely. He's now 4th in line. Davila now in the sucker hole. Davila
in the sucker hole for sure, but to the credit of GT Hawkins, he gained back about half those positions he just lost in a matter of a lap. That's how quickly things shuffle around. He went from 1st to 15th to 10th in just as little bit of that. And as we talk about that, poor old Davila gets shoved in the middle. He's trying to find a hole, but can't quite get in. He's going to be able to probably
He's
jump in
trying to find
somewhere.
a place here. He's going to fall. Aaron Smith II gave him a really good peace offering there. That is an olive branch for the 70 who had to check up there, had space to, thankfully. William Boisvert, this 47, didn't press the issue too awful hard behind him either. But Davila now out and down well and truly closer to 20th place than he was to the lead.
Jalen Handcamp going to leave just another lap here to tick on to his resume. This is an incredible story for Jalen Handcamp. We haven't talked about him until about 5 laps ago, and now he's out front. Mauricio getting a push from Jose Solis with Cattell and Hawkins in tow, but right now it's the Dietrich Handcamp show on the bottom. But look at that side draft, that formation that outside line took. That's what we saw Davila doing a little bit ago, but now they're all starting to shuffle around. McAdams to the middle with Carpenter again. They find each other once more.
Hey, here we go. Middle lane being filled. That is also Nate Stewart and Anthony Krobach middle lane as well.
Mauricio to the lead with help from Cattell, the lap down car trying to claw his way back into contention. Car in the wall.
That was
around goes the 4.
That was trouble. That was behind Christian Budd, who tagged the wall, but it was on the inside lane. Holzer, I think, turned Pressy.
Ooh, yes, indeed. But that was the 54 of Cruz sneaking through there in that bright orange car. The 16 goes for a slide. The 43 of Holzer got damaged. Yeah. That all started, as you said, Carmen. Christian Budd got tight out of turn 4 and kissed the wall, and it all kicked off behind, not unlike what we just saw with the 41 car in the tri-oval not too long ago.
Holzer got the least end of that. It was Pressy who ended up nose first into the outside safer barrier, but it was a bad bump then. I think Holtz was putting his hand up on that one.
Mauricio
on the radio.
In the lead in the meantime here as they're almost piling up, catching the safety car down the backstretch. But Mauricio had just gotten to the front with a huge run, and he had left Jose Solis. And because Cattell is in the position he is, he should get the free pass here. So that's why he was racing so hard.
He gets one. Because he's not the first car lap down. The first car lap down was the 11 Austin Reedy.
You're right,
then you get 67 and Nate Stewart.
But so nevertheless, avoids
he has the ability to get the wave around, though. That is the important thing. If he wants to get the wave around and get one of those laps back, he can do that because he's only got.
So I believe this is the first crash. This is the last caution. That was the incident with Morera in the tri-oval. Yeah, it all kicked off with Christian Budd, number 50, coming out of turn 4. We talked about it at the top of the show, Carmen. You were asking me about the characteristics of Daytona. The banking falls away, and as this car starts handling worse and worse, I think we might have it here.
Get a replay. Here we go. I think this looks like it, because this is Mauricio in the lead ahead of Cattell. Christian Budd
had just hit the wall at this point. Yeah. Everybody scattered, and as they all kind of scattered, Pressy went to the inside, and Holzer tried to get down there as well.
They're in the middle now. Yeah, they went to the middle.
And it's as Holzer's trying to get down there. Pressy's already losing it, but Holzer gets on the corner panel and finishes him off. This was in reaction to seeing that 50 car check up because he hit the outside wall. And the 16 gets a shot, the 20, the 70. Pick your favorite.
Austin Reedy with the free pass because he was ahead of Nate Stewart when that caution came out. So Nate Stewart's now the first car a lap down.
Yeah, if we get a slightly different angle, you can already see the 50 car sideways here. He hits the wall. You watch the car unload, that red car on the very top. See how it pushes up the hill? It scrapes the wall. It loses momentum. Everybody kind of panicked, maybe overreacted a little bit. And Holzer just unfortunately finishes off Pressy. I think he took the blame for that, of course. He'll be the one who gets moved to the rear, gets a check there from the 60 and the 47. But I think that's probably, that's sort of a racing deal. I think a little bit of overreaction on everybody's part there. But honestly, a good job by Budd because he hit the wall. You'd expect him to slow down more, which made it look like an overreaction. But yeah, you can see they're already overlapped here. Pressy was diving from the outside lane to get to the middle to try. He was already in the middle, but he saw the 50 hit the wall and tried to get even lower. I think Holzer was trying to move maybe to the outside lane and saw the contact and tried to abort that, but he already got to the outside corner of Nick Pressy, who was simply a passenger at that point.
Yeah, the thing with the issue is that Pressy got to the middle lane and had to check up because of where Nate Stewart was. So because he had a full head of steam, and obviously Holzer wasn't able to check up in time either. So when he tried to make the move, unfortunately, the same real estate already occupied, and
curious if
Holzer does have an EOL now.
Yeah, he did. He owned up to it and said it was his fault there. So it was honestly a racing deal, but obviously at fault for being the one to hook Pressy. I wonder if we can get one more view of that from Lucas Davila's view, because apparently he had a fantastic avoidance through all of this and had an exciting moment. Remember, he was out front, got shuffled to the middle, and then all this happened right in his lap. So we'll see about if we can get one more view of that. As you can see, Cattell does elect to get the wave around, as does Nate Stewart. So, all right, on board here with Lucas Davila.
He's going to be right behind it, too.
That's Holzer in the 43. Now watch here as everybody shifts down. You're going to see where the Ford dives to the bottom. The 50s just hit the wall. Pressey's trying to react to it. Holzer trying to react to it. They come together. And he scoots on by on the bottom, a brilliant view of it. And look at how close he got to getting collected in that.
Yeah, really close there. That's Tyler Murray. They end up getting the brunt of that there, along with Zach Robinson.
See Aaron Smith in the 70 going for another spin, but Davila doing a good job of getting through that one. You see that's Brandon McKissick just ahead as well, who skated on by. And it's GT Hawkins out front once again in the number 14 machine, alongside Kevin McAdams in the number 26. And I think that's Mauricio and Jose Solis behind them respectively. And then you have Corey Carpenter, and I think that's Handcamp behind them. So that's your first three rows. And of course, it's worth noting the 50 of Christian Budd, who wasn't necessarily responsible, but kind of kicked off all the fireworks there out of turn 4. No damage from that light contact. He runs in 8th place where he was when everything kicked off. It's then Krobach and Boyd the 3rd to round out the top 10, Dietrich in 7th.
Frantic race here as we now start to see more of the battle scars.
And we're past the halfway point. It's also worth noting by 13 laps now in all this. So it's only going to start ramping up more and more as we get in there. On board with Krobach, getting ready to go back to the green flag. On board with the Big Fan Esports on board, number 23. Tucked right behind the number 74 of Dietrich, and the pace car is off.
And so you're ready to go back green here. 6th restart of the race. Remember that, as you saw there on the ticker there for a moment, this is independent from the Winstel Cup Series season. Winstel Cup Series season begins March 2nd. So if you want to have a chance to join in with this group and race in one of the most fun series on iRacing, it's discord.gg/Winstel.
Also can find that on the back of the number 50 of Christian Budd. Well, maybe not anymore. It might have got scraped off on that safer barrier contact, but that is the sponsor adorning the 50. So as they come down the back straightaway once again, you know, it's funny because you always remember these old play races, Carmen, where Larry McReynolds would come up and say, well, remember, it takes them about a lap to get up to speed. That's still true for these cars, but with how fast they are, getting up to speed is still 195 miles an hour.
Yes. Yeah, it's still wild, the speeds that we're seeing here. We're just talking casually, oh, we're just lifting out of the throttle to get down to 196. It's insane, the stuff that we're seeing here. Kevin McAdams got to the point pretty quickly there with the help of Jose Solis Jr. Ahead of GT Hawkins, Gabriel Mauricio, Corey Carpenter, your top 5 at the moment. Jalen Handicamp sitting a decent 6th position, and a Rocky Boyd the 3rd. Christian Budd and Hayden Dietrich, the now battle for 8th place right now on the track.
Absolutely. And on board with Solis, obviously a Winstel regular, pushing an FTF veteran. McAdams has been a wily character today, as has GT Hawkins, who's leading this outside lane coming into screen. These two have been very wily, but they have been absolutely putting on a show tonight. And you see Mauricio pushing GT Hawkins. Mauricio trying to get that silver bullet back out front, and Corey Carpenter, I'm sure he's going to drop down and try and hook up at that 26. Man, it's almost like I know a thing or two because I've seen a thing or two. They're going to hook up on the bottom and go at it with GT and Mauricio.
We are farmers. Bum, ba-dum, bum, 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 bum.
So it's Hawkins and Carpenter with their dance partners for the last 20 laps or so. Then it's Jose Solis Jr. and Christian Budd in their respective 3rd in line. But here comes that inside lane with all the momentum.
Big time move, yeah.
Handcamp is going to clear. He may have an opportunity to try and jump up and lead that outside lane just behind them. I think is that...
that's Rocky Boyd in the next one.
Rocky Boyd the 3rd. So 3 wide in the middle here too.
Oh, here we go. Nate Stewart on the outside lane, following none other. Who else? Brandon Cattell.
Well, remember, they both took the wave around, so they've got to kind of try to mix this up so they don't get too far out of sequence, because Nate Stewart's back on the lead lap, and Cattell got one of his laps back. So, and you see they're going to work together as they have been for a while now.
Stewart
And you can see the laps since last pit. It's been 24 laps. They can only stay out for maybe about, what, 10, 11 more laps before they'd have to come in and pit.
We saw pit window begin about lap 36 when Tokarev came down pit lane. So, yeah, we're looking at about 10 laps time for them to come down pit lane, but they'll be coming down together.
I'll tell you what, Kettel's the last place car of running drivers, but he is not driving like it whatsoever. 41 cars still making laps around the track. And that purple number 80 may be last on the time charts, but he is doing everything he can to get himself back in contention because that car does not look worse for wear.
A lot of communication going on right now as we sit underway.
On board with Emily Howe.
Yep, defending race winner.
Tucked right up behind pole sitter Nate Stewart.
Right there in the inside of two-time Winstel Cup Series champion Christian Budd, to the outside of Kirk Marble.
Mauricio, the silver bullet, led multiple laps this evening. GT Hawkins, like similar story. There's Anthony Krobach on the inside, now looking at that Winstel 2005 season. There's Nick Doucette, the Canadian behind Emily Howe. That beautiful part of the team.
I believe that's Craig Lautenschlager just falling in behind there in the inside lane as well.
It is. Here's Deejus in the 74. Nate Stewart still tucked up right behind Kettel. They're going to try to go to the front. And I'll tell you what, these three all know each other. I'm sure they have some sort of thing in line here. Kettel, as they almost are pushing 210 nearly, 208 topping out into turn 3 and 4. I'll tell you what's probably happening here, Carmen. I think Kettel's saying, look, let's go to the front. You let me lead. I'll find the holes as long as you let me stay out front. Because if a caution comes out, he gets one of his laps back. I think that's probably the agreement. And Nate Stewart in no position to say no because he's on a similar pit strategy. So they're going to have to stick together for now anyway.
Cooper's not going to fight him too awful hard on that either because that's his teammate trying to get back into this race. And they're going to drop to the inside lane. And they're going to pull Emily Howe right there alongside. But Emily Howe, remember, on the strategy as the rest of the field, will inherit the lead if things stay as they are when these two inevitably have to come down to pit lane.
And this is the furthest up the field she's been all day today. We have not heard a lot from her. She was involved very slightly in a little bit of the big one and then got ran to the back of for Bryce Saucier. That set her back a little bit, but she did not waste her fast repair as far as I'm aware. So she currently will be sitting P2. Again, the lead car, the number 80 machine of Brandon Kettel, in a strategy game here to try and get his laps back. He is 3, now currently 2 laps down as he leads this field and trying to get back into contention. If a caution comes out, he will be able to get a lap back, just like the olden days in NASCAR. It's a little bit of gamesmanship for this lucky dog.
Yeah, right now, 2 cars, 1 lap down.
Just the onboard with the bumper camera if you don't think they're shoving each other. Go ahead, Carmen.
No, you're good. A really good example of just how much Nate Stewart was right there on the bumper of Kettel. 2 cars, 1 lap down. Bryce Saucier and Vlad Tokarev are 1 lap down. Tokarev went a lap down, having to tow. Saucier went a lap down, having to take extended repairs for his second crash of the night. Eli Sasek, 2 laps down, having to tow. He ended up getting back on the racetrack, though, still 2 laps down. Kettel was 4 laps down, got a lap back from the wave around, pushed his way forward to get down to 2 laps down, but has a pit stop incoming here very shortly here. We're down to, I believe, 2 pit stops left in this race, though, overall, if things stay green, which we know, better knock on wood, it hasn't. So, but that's
well,
where
I'll say this.
now. And
I'll say this, Carmen. You see the 2-pack group here. It could stay green for quite some time. The second pack has sort of pulled away from the back half of the pack, and that means less cars collected together. Now, of course, that doesn't mean they're not going to wreck, but it does mean there's less likelihood for intensity to pick up when you have 20 cars versus, 40. But it is worth noting, if it makes it a little easier for you guys at home, if you're not quite following why they're letting the 80 car sit out front, he's 2.999 laps down right now, but if a caution comes out, he gets that 999 eliminated effectively and gets to get a free lap back. His teammate is second place of the drivers, as they're battling for the lead right now, side by side. His teammate, Carpenter, in the number 30, is going to want his teammate to get back on the lead lap so they have a chance to win this thing. They're controlling both lanes. Nate Stewart, who is on the lead lap and is leading this race officially, is going to have to pit shortly because he took a wave around with Kettel. So they're all kind of trying to work together to get themselves back into an even playing field. And of course, all the respect and all the years of racing alongside one another allows for this kind of politicking to happen. If this was some random driver from who knows where, they probably would not be so kind as they are to Kettel right now.
Absolutely not, and we've seen that already happen, and you have to earn that favor with experience. Obviously, friends are where you find them, but memories are pretty long in these stock cars, as they are in all forms of racing. I think everyone in the booth, both on the microphone and otherwise, can kind of vouch that, yeah, we hold grudges a little bit, so we know who's good and who to steer clear of. As I mentioned before, though, a lot of shooters in this group. We see that. We see obviously a lot of dual winners. There's Rocky Boyd in the 1991 on the outside lane. Obviously Stuart Pulsatrix, Cattell, we know how good he is. Emily Howell's in the top 10 now. Nick Doucette's in the top 10 right now. We have a lot of drivers that are really good that are just outside the top 10. You look at Lucas Davila, who's been really impressive. He just got in the top 10, getting around Anthony Krobach, who's on the inside lane there behind Christian Budd. Christian Budd, two-time Winstel Series champion. He doesn't get a lot higher than that if you're Christian Budd. You've done the thing twice. So he's right now sitting on the inside lane. He won Duel 1 as well, so really good stuff there for him. He's obviously had to weather the storm a little bit there. Zach Robinson just outside of the top 10. There's Jose Solis Jr. Look at Caden Dietrich, again, the 74. He's had to weather the storm a little bit as well. That Exalta car just a little bit further back. But he's in the mix of it right now. There's a lot of good drivers right now in this group. He's just getting to the end of this race with 2 pit stops to go. And do we actually get a green flag pit stop run? We've had really good green flag runs. We've just not gotten that full stanza to the green flag window. Do we see that later on in this race with 55 laps to go, coming to 54 to go?
Yeah, and as you were talking about that, Carmen, I've been keeping my eye on this second pack. We saw for a moment they all are lined up single file. They're trying to get some momentum going. As these cars up front are side by side, they're going to be slowing themselves down just a little bit. They have made some inroads, but now starting to kind of ebb back a little bit. So Jacob Potak leading that second lane. They're trying to catch back up to this main pack. They made a little bit of momentum and are starting to fall apart, and I think the reason why, as you can see, they're actually leaving some of those cars in the back. It was about 5 seconds. Now it's a little bit like 4 and some change, but I wouldn't be surprised if it dips back again. But they are trying to uniform. They are trying to line up and get something done. You see, it's 4.5 seconds. So they are taking a little bit of time now out of this pack once again as they've started to get some more cars formed up. They are trying to get back into the mix here, and I think the draft range is somewhere about 1.2 seconds. If they can get within, then they'll be catching the draft of those leaders and will be officially back in the pack. But it's not all hope lost for this group, but they're going to have to work together for the time being to catch back up. We got the green flag pit stops with Stewart and Cattell. Remember, they did not make a pit stop earlier to try and get their laps back, so they have to come in together. They do get in pretty nicely. No issues there, no issues with the pack. Also, Eli Sasek made a pit stop a lap ago. He is now on the apron, currently re-merging onto the racetrack, which means we are going to be seeing green flag pit stops shortly. There's Bryce Saucier as well, who almost lost it on the apron. James Holzer as well merging on the track. So some of the drivers that stayed out in that last caution to get wave arounds or what have you are now taking the pain for that.
If we can switch back on the ticker to laps since last pit, we're going to get a really good idea of this. Obviously, the pit window, as we mentioned before, was 32 to 35 laps. We're about halfway through that run right now for all of those that are on the lap and battling for this race lead right now. So really good inference there. Really just kind of ticking over the halfway point right now. So that puts us at about lap almost lap 125. So that puts us at 30. Ooh. Yeah. It's 35 laps to go when they come down pit lane. Oh dear.
You can never avoid fuel saving at Daytona. It is inevitable. But as we look now, it is worth noting that since Stewart and Cattell peeled off pit lane, what you're seeing on the screen is for position. Everybody is racing for the de facto lead right now. Craig Lautenschlager getting a push now from Rocky Boyd III on the outside to go around Corey Carpenter. I think that might be Lautenschlager's first laps of today led, and it is going to put the number 13 on the point. It is his first lap led, and Rocky Boyd III says, alrighty, I'm jumping down to the bottom now, and has some help now with Lucas Davila trying to get back to the inside and back to the front after he got shuffled out a number of laps ago. They're now 1-2 on the bottom.
Moms, it was my turn to lead this race.
And look at this. Hey, look at this snake in the background. As more cars peel off the pit, more drivers stay side by side up here. This single file group is making inroads. So I don't know whether they'll catch this group by the time we get to pit stops or not, but with about a second or two of field spread, if they don't catch them before pit stops, they should be back in this group by the time pit stops cycle out at the rate they're closing. And I'm talking about that line of cars in the background. And if you guys are enjoying this and you're an iRacing member and you're saying, heck, I want to race with more of these guys, the 2005 Winstel season is starting up soon. You can do discord.gg/Winstel. We run the Gen 4 cars there. A lot of the drivers in this race tonight will be racing in that season. You still have time to sign up. You'll see that on the bottom left-hand side of your screen. The old Gen 4 cars with the 2005 paint schemes starting up this spring. So don't miss out on that. But that's a little bit later. Right now, it's Rocky Boy III leading the Winstel 400 with Lucas Davila in the 86 in tow right behind. Again, the underdogs out front right now, having a good time to play out front, while the some of the front runners dealing with adversity right now.
Yeah, it's genuinely been an anyone's game with how many of the front runners, how many of the favorites have had issues in this race. We talked about obviously the retirement there of Sean Butler, the early engine failure for Sean Butler that took out several cars there. Obviously the big one and how much it put, the likes of Emily Howe, Christian Budd, Gabriel Mauricio, so many of them on the back foot here. It's really kind of shuffled things around. It is the outsiders right now, so to speak, that are leading the way. Rocky Boyd is not a Winstel regular. This is Lucas Davila's first Winstel 400. You have Corey Carpenter, who's typically a midfield driver in the Winstel Cup Series. Nothing wrong with Corey Carpenter's record. He's just not that upper echelon driver in the season. But this is his chance to really shine, and he's taking it with both hands and run with it. You've got Kevin McAdams, who really sporadic appearances in the Winstel community here. You've got Kirk Marble, who joined the Winstel community this year and has been in the fronting mix there. William Boisvert, who missed out last year on this race. He's in the front line center right now. Jalen Hankamp, who had to race his way in yesterday, did so, was phenomenal. Zach Robinson, who we don't say his name a lot. Same with Craig Lautenschlager, we don't say his name a ton. He drove the 99 last year in the Winstel Cup Series. Caden Dietrich, he's a debutant here. He's sitting right there in the top 10. They're all ahead of the likes of Emily Howe, Christian Budd, Nick Gisette, Gabriel Mauricio, and the list goes on. And they're looking really good right now. It's going to be a fight. It's going to be an absolute dogfight over these next 47 laps.
Yeah, the clock is ticking. The gap is closing from this group from behind. It's down to almost 3 seconds even. We're on board with Jacob Potak, one of the last chance winners here that barely made the field.
Yeah.
We saw him having an excursion, a rallycross down that grass patch on your left a little bit earlier. It seems like all that's back under control. He is gaining on Tyler Murray in the number 16, looking back now from that last car in the pack. So as that continues to close, the other thing to keep in mind, this is all a powder keg. The clock is ticking. And if you think we've not seen enough action yet, we're about to see it all explode here in just a short while. And you can see it looks like that they've caught Nate Stewart, and I would assume as well Cattell, to put them a lap down now. After they had to make their pit stop. There is Cattell actually. Is that with Vlad Tokarev? It is. So they're working together to try and stay from going another lap down. They're both, Tokarev is 1 lap down, and I think currently Cattell is 4 down because he had to make his pit stop right now. So he's trying to stay only 4 down. Stewart just went 1 down. Tokarev, I think, needs to pit. So, yeah. But Stewart is, I think, going to be in position for the lucky dog. Yeah, because he was on the lead lap. He had to pit out of sequence, though. So
the top 2 1-lap down, or the only 2 1-lap down right now, is Nate Stewart, who just went a lap down, and James Holzer in the 43.
Who is not at the very tail end of this group, actually.
Oh, so. Well, yeah, now that Potak's back with the group. By the way, that happened.
Yeah. They're working their way up. Actually, they're just about to catch up. I think it's the 43 of Holzer you'll see is there. You can see that blue and orange on the third car in line. Yeah, he's almost at the tail end. But no, Potak is about to catch the draft, so this is about to kick off. But they are all about to make pit stops anyway, so...
Yeah, right after they caught Brandon Cattell, the 80 car just got lapped there, so he's now 5 laps down. Pressey gets himself clear of Cattell. Very bad move there by Pressey, but it pays off.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, that lap traffic helps this group move forward a little more. It's a little extra sniff of draft, it helps them move forward more. But they're getting single file up at the front, which is also something worth noting because now that they're starting to get lined up for pit stops, they may be going a little bit faster. However, I would think some of them are going to be saving fuel or trying to check up so they don't make runs, whereas Potak's going to be pedal to the metal the whole way through to catch up. So it looks like he has now caught the draft bubble. It'll be a matter of time before they catch. Here's Nate Stewart in the middle with Cattell once again. Unlikely partners. There's Tokarev coming out of the pit lane after he's made his pit stop, so now he will go 2 laps down. In fact, I think he'll actually go 3 laps down because of the pit stop cycle.
Yes. But so remember this. So those that have pit before lap 125, they are 100% not going to be able to make it on fuel to the end. You have to get to lap 125. You have to get to lap 125 because that's the very outer edge of our pit window. Tokarev made it 36 laps because of caution on that first pit cycle.
Correct.
Because he stayed out. So 35 is a stretch right now, and you have to be at the back of the field as Potak is caught up to the tail end of Tyler Murray and Brandon McKissick, the 52 car. So now we have everyone back together again. 35 cars all in the lead lap, and they're all together. Nate Stewart a lap down as the free pass, trying to get to the front of the field with help from Brandon Cattell.
You know what I find interesting about this? I find this interesting because Potak caught and looked like he almost wanted to make some moves, but nobody wanted to go with him because they're all, I think, trying to save some fuel. They'd have had to burn a lot of Sunoco race fuel to catch back up to this group where they're not trying to lift as much or try and save fuel as much. So I'm curious to see. That's why we see everybody single file right now. This is probably the first time they've been riding around all day because we're trying to extend that fuel just a little bit to see if we can make it or not. But right now, that's why just about everybody's single file except for those cars that are either laps down, or I think that's Kirk Marble and is that Lautenschlager up there that's trying to get some extra points, some extra positions before the cycle starts. So, but the train is leaving and they better get on. It's Carpenter and McAdams, the unlikely bedfellows out front still. We're making some massive pace down the back straightaway around the whole track here now that nobody is side by side. And that is the entire field on your screen.
Yeah.
Single file while we get ready to pit.
I appreciate Kristina being able to talk while I'm trying to scarf down honey buns. Little Debbie, if you want to sponsor us for next year's race, let me know.
Sponsor Vlad Tokarev. He doesn't have one right now. He deserves it.
Absolutely.
Sitting back in line there. He's a couple laps down because he fell out of sequence, but put on a great show early on in this race. Led some laps for Isle of Man. A lot of good, feel-good stories in this race tonight.
First Mates driver to actually lead a lap, not only in Winstel, but on ABN screens too. We didn't have that resource available when we were doing this. We were like, hold on, wait a second. What? We didn't have that resource available. We had to make it on the fly. So, obviously, shout out to Tokarev, even though this race has kind of fallen a little bit south for him. His first Winstel 500, I think, is a success. He proved himself to be an absolute force.
Well, he made the show, so it's already a success. And the same could be said for the other drivers that are making their first time start. This is a big deal. Again, if you're just joining us, we have 43 cars that started this race. There is a whole nother field of drivers and then some that did not make the field this week for tonight's race over the last week. And a lot of big names missed out. Yeah, well, a lot of big names missed out on this too. Only 3 drivers out of the 43 were locked in at all. So, and only one of those drivers did not race their way in and had to fall back on a provisional, which is that orange and white 54 you see of Brandon Cruz. But other than that, and he's one of the promoters for the event, which is why he has his provisional, contributing a large sum to this $1,000 purse that someone's going to walk away with several $100s at the end of tonight's race. So,
but, it's going to be exciting, and that's why everyone's been so frantic, is because this was a free to enter event. No one paid a dime to enter this event. There's no entry fees, nothing like that.
Big move to the front here with Cattell and Nate Stewart, by the way. Again, they're not going to be scored as the leaders because they're laps down. I think Stewart getting his lap back now currently. Cattell going back to 4 laps down, or maybe 3 laps down. I think he's 4 laps down. He's going to go back to 4. Yes. So they're going to jump in front of Cattell's teammate Corey Carpenter. Of course, because that's teammates, he's not really going to have too big of an issue with that because that allows Carpenter to save more fuel. So I'm sure McAdams is in on that line of communication as well, considering that they've been working together so well tonight. You can see they're actually pulling away a little. Yeah, for sure. You got Rocky Boyd the third and Davila, Lautenschlager rounding out the top 10. Again, they're a single file right now because we're getting ready for potentially the last round of pit stops and our first round of green flag stops tonight.
Oh, it took us a while to get there, but we've had a lot of fun racing nonetheless. It's been a little bit of everything. And remember, $1,000 on the total purse table for a race that's free to enter. Everyone's been fighting for that because there's 36 drivers right now, Nate Stewart on lead lap included, that have a legitimate chance at the end of the night to claim that money purse. So it is all really up for grabs. And really, aside from the Cattell, who needs a miracle, Eli Sasek, who also needs a miracle, obviously took
several pit stops here. We have several drivers pitting. Davila's in.
It's a 25. Oh.
And they were cars that were running at the front, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, I think it is possible if they save a lot, Carmen, they could make it on fuel to the end because they made it onto lap 125, which means they're one short. So if they do some extreme fuel saving, which they could do, especially once the tires start to wear out, it is possible to make it, but they are absolutely on the back foot. And we got some more people lighting up talking about pit stops now. So
the issue with that is that they're going to come out in a group of 4.
For sure.
You burn way more fuel in that group of 4 than you will in a group of 35.
What they're hoping,
that's a huge issue.
I think what they're hoping is they'll come back out and merge and blend in with this field, because that's what we saw happen with Stewart and Cattell. That's what we saw with Tokarev. They all were off the pace, made a pit stop. You see Potak coming into pit lane now. I think that's Pressy coming down as well. So
that's
a couple of drivers straggling, yeah. Oh, Pressy into the grass. He's going to get a penalty there.
He missed it.
That's the same thing that took him out of a victory in one of the Champ Car races on ABN at the start of last year. And once again, snake bitten on pit road and a green flag pit stop. This is shades of what happened to Brennan McGee last year with speeding on pit road, but he did not even make it to pit speed. He was illegal pit entry. So that's going to be a huge penalty for Pressy and pretty much take him out of contention.
Yeah, any chance he had is completely washed away now. A lot more cars coming in this time with 34 laps to go at the line.
Yeah, this is the biggest group yet.
This is the big one, yeah.
This is pretty much the whole Winstel group, too. You see reigning winner Emily Howe, Cruz Montsevice, Nick Doucette, Bud, Holzer.
Ooh,
I think Holzer might have
really hot there. Yeah.
GT Hawkins, Aaron Smith, and more coming in pit lane. Barrera. So now it's Handcamp, Diedrich, Solis, McKissick, Carmen, McGee, Kolonix, Collingham, and Chatelain with Baker, the top 10. That is a lot of names we haven't said much today. Of course, they still need to make their pit stops, but they've saved plenty of fuel in this cycle, and that could be big if we have a green-white checkered towards the end of the race.
Yeah, that's a huge ordeal right now. Jalen Handcamp now leading the way ahead of Caden Dietrich as they get ready to come down pit lane, and here they go.
And it's just the two of them, which is actually historically has tended to be the advantage, at least in the next gen cars. And that might be, oh my goodness, every single one of them going in there. McKissick as well, speeding for sure. I feel like there's no way they get away with that. Diedrich probably as well. That's
unfortunate there, because as you mentioned, you're avoiding the majority of the traffic, which just speeds up your pit lane time.
Handcamp gets a speeding penalty, too fast entering. Jose Solis Jr., too fast entering. Somehow, McKissick gets under the radar.
McKissick somehow got it low down enough that it worked out, but that's insane.
So Solis and
where all the
Handcamp
smoke came from.
Yeah, exactly. But they're done pretty much, unless we get several.
You need help.
Yeah, they're going to need a lot of help, but. And this is what we talked about with Brennan McGee. He was in his best scenario of his career to win this race last year, and this is the same thing that happened to him. A lot of drivers know that heartbreak.
Remember, so we're
leads. That's what we're looking at now.
The lead right now, obviously those that are leading this massive train, Nate Stewart, Brandon Cattell, Eli Sasek, they have all got a pit stop to make. They are laps down. They're hoping for the meteor, is the saying that we use when you're needing everything to go wrong for everyone else. You're hoping for the meteor.
William Boisbert, by the way, who did not make the show last year, was so excited to make it this year, and he's going to make it worthwhile. He leads his first laps of the night with a push from Kirk Marble and Lucas Davila in the back as well. And now they have all pitted, Carmen, so this is the whole cycle out. This is the battle for effectively the win of this race. They are racing to the end. However, again, you said that these are the drivers that came in a little early, some of them. So it's going to be tough to make it. And look at this. Here comes Carpenter and McAdams again to the bottom in the 2-car tandem. We're going to be seeing more and more of that tonight. And oh my goodness, McAdams tried to fake out Carpenter, went back to the top, back to the bottom. Gets away with it. Is that...
That's Pressy. That's currently the first car lap down. He's trying to race his lap back because if he's able to get back on the lap the natural way without needing that free pass, he pits with everybody else. He doesn't have to be at the back of the field on that last restart.
So here's Davila pushing Marble now. I think there was a bit of a split strategy. I think some drivers may have opted to take tires, some of them opting not to. I think that's where the split is.
Some people took 2, some people took 4. Just about everyone took tires at some degree. You can't go without taking 2 tires regardless. Some people, I think, may have took 4.
This is, that's Saucier.
Yeah, who is not on the pace at all. Yeah.
So again, the red number 4 machine is not in the lead. This is Jose Solis Jr. going a lap down. Remember, he was too fast entering pit road, so his night is going to get a lot more challenging if he wants to try to win this event. But he will be in this lead group. You can see the line that Nate Stewart is leading right now. Remember, Nate Stewart and Cattell pit long ago. They have to make one more pit stop still, but they're currently leading this line up because what they want everybody to do is get up here and wreck so they can get back on sequence. So they're absolutely going to try and be agents of chaos.
What they want to happen is they come down pit lane, and as they come down pit lane, the caution
everybody
comes
wrecks.
out.
Yep. Yeah, that would be the golden scenario.
That would bail out Nate Stewart a little bit here, but again, you need it to be timed right, and they're going to completely shoot the gap here.
But where are you going to go? Where do you go now, Carmen? They're 3 wide in every row. You can't go anywhere.
Find a hole, make a hole. That's what Nate Stewart's doing, and Brandon Cattell's letting him do it. You saw him go from bottom to top to middle in 1 corner.
28 laps to go at the line in the 2025 Winstel 400. On board with Nate Stewart, the pole sitter, was the dominant car of the day at the start of the race. The dominant car of the weekend has been on the back foot since about the 1/4 mark after getting involved in a couple of crashes. He is trying to claw himself back into contention by any means necessary. He is on the lead lap. He is racing for position, but he has to get a caution to stay in contention. Otherwise, he will have to make another pit stop. Corey Carpenter leads Kevin McAdams, Diedrich Doucette, and Cruz Monsivice in the top 5 with Rocky Boyd, Boisevert, Marble, Stewart, and Davila. The top 10. 28 to go.
It is frantic throughout the field here. It is the outside lane that has prevailed so far with Carpenter, McAdams, and I believe that's the 74 of Caden Dietrich. It is the 74 of Caden Dietrich in 3rd ahead of Nick Doucette. Doucette getting up to the top 4. He's looking for his first Winstel 400 victory.
Look at Davila trying to jump down there. Was that with Boisevert as well, trying to jump to the bottom?
The Argentine trying to make moves here. He's been impressive basically all Winstel Speed Weeks here. He's been impressive. Trying to put the bow on top as well. On debut in the Winstel 400, trying to win the race.
Reigning winner Emily Howe in the middle 3 wide. Potak gets shuffled to the bottom but hangs on to it. That's Brandon Cruz in the middle. Had to start this race as a provisional. Did not qualify on time. Started dead last. He's now sitting in the middle, rubbing fenders with Brandon Hayes-Cattell, and is sitting in the middle 3 wide with a lot of company behind. Kirk Marble. I think that's Craig Lautenschlager, reigning winner Emily Howe, James Holter.
That bump between Lautenschlager and Pressy shuffled Lautenschlager. No, sorry, that's Austin Reedy. Excuse me. Reedy was the one that got shuffled to the outside there. Lautenschlager's further back in the order behind Marble.
But they all hang on to it.
Somehow. Pressy saw deja vu from when he got turned and hooked to the outside lane there.
Yeah.
That was horrible.
I believe Pressy will be the lucky dog, correct? Yes. So that's why he's racing so hard. He puts a very late block on Nate Stewart. He puts some insane blocks on Nate Stewart, trying to stay on the lead lap, and that's why, because there's Nate Reedy right beside him.
Yeah, Austin Reedy, the 11 car sitting.
Now
he's now in, this is the side-by-side is for the free pass. Pressy's got unrestricted air, and he's got one of the most aggressive drivers right now right behind him.
Nate Stewart knows he can't make it on fuel, so he's not even trying to save. His best objective is to push somebody and hope they wreck so he can get back in this race.
And now Austin Reedy's okay with this because Pressie's now on the lead lap. If something goes wrong, Pressie's okay.
Which means Reedy now is the free pass car as long as that red Speed Racer number 4 stays out front. But Nate cannot push forever. He's going to be getting hot by now, and that's why
there you go.
Around. Yeah, yeah, that's what he had to do. Nate was getting high temps. There was no way Pressie could have stayed out much longer without Nate blowing up. And, you know, they want to help people out and get them back lead laps, but this is the last stint of the Winstel 400. Get out of the way, son. I'm going to the lead.
Yeah,
and to be honest, if Nate Stewart pulls out and Pressie hooks himself, that works for Stewart because now he's got a caution. So
and he's going to be in the lead lap because he just unlapped himself.
Well, he's leading the race, Carmen. He is on the lead lap. Right. He just needs to pit. So Stewart has no problem letting someone hook himself off his front bumper. Yeah. That's exactly what he wants, honestly.
The worst thing that happens is he gets an EOL, and he's already going to have an EOL for pitting.
Exactly.
Now, you're not wrong. You're not wrong at all there. So you have the 80 at Cattell, who's 4 laps down.
Trying to be 3 down because he's right behind the leader. I think his chances are starting to fade away, unfortunately for him.
You need a lot to happen in the last 20-odd laps of this race to make things happen. Corey Carpenter in the catbird seat with the top 2 in line having to pit. Pressie now back to being 1 lap down. Kevin McAdams in second, really sitting well in that Doritos 26 Ford.
Don't count out dual winner Christian Budd. He had a little scrape with the wall earlier, but he knows how to win it on any situation, any given Sunday.
Christian Budd.
Absolutely, and dual winner of this year's race. So he's already won this Speed Weeks, and it's only the 5th day of the year. On board with Brandon Cruz, the provisional driver. It says he started 40th, but he had to start tail end of the field with an EOL. He still sits in the middle, and he has a chance to win this. He's here on pace. He's here on his fuel strategy, so he is good to go to the end. He could walk away with the win tonight.
Now he's behind the 43 of James Holzer. Holzer is also 1 lap down. It's a 3-car fight for that lucky dog position, that free pass spot that Nick Pressie currently possesses.
Indeed.
It's between Pressie, Austin Reedy, and James Holzer, and Jalen Hankamp. Jalen Hankamp, the 95, who also had that speeding penalty for speeding in pit lane on that last pit stop. He's also right there in the group. Everyone that is a lap down is in this group right now. Jose Solis Jr. included, outside lane. It is a smorgasbord of storylines right now, and we're coming to 21 laps to go. Who wants to play blackjack?
And they couldn't stay out anymore. Nate and Cattell come in, as does Eli Classic. They could not stay out any longer, so their chances of winning now pretty much lie. Well, Nate's...
This is a fuel-only stop.
Yeah, it lies on them getting a caution within the next lap.
You look at the 3 wide. They're 3 wide, 5 rows deep. Yeah, I would kind of start putting money on the table here.
These boys need to be careful. These boys that are racing for the lucky dog, they need to be careful because nothing's going to get you hated by every single league in iRacing. Because remember, all the faces that are here, then wrecking the field, wrecking for the lucky dog. My goodness, they were 4 wide for just a moment down the super stretch, Carmen. It is getting antsy. 20 to go at the line.
It is getting antsy right now. Cattell and Stewart out of pit lane now. They're in 1. So it's going to be a race. Sasek out of pit lane now. They'll get the Sasek first. Right now, it's side by side. Carpenter and McAdams.
Pressie jumps to the lead with, I think, Hankamp. They're both back on the lead lap now together, so they're going to try to work with one another. And I think they're also... No, that's Craig Lautenschlager, not Reedy up front. So that's for position with Carpenter, the blue and red. And GT Hawkins back in the fight.
Oh, this is going to be back. Kevin Pressie going side by side. This is this is actually on the lead lap right now.
Look at Jose Solis to the bottom for the wall to the yellow line. 3 wide behind him.
Lautenschlager leads, but he's an afterthought right now because you have cars trying to get on the lead lap all lined up. The 95, the 4, and the 22. And here comes the 30 of Carpenter in the middle.
But it's still Lautenschlager leading on the top 4 now, as they are 3 wide for the lead behind. But that inside line is all lapped cars. And if you are Kevin McAdams or Anthony Krobach, you're thinking, what the hell? These guys are blocking our chance to win the biggest race of the year because they're racing to get their lap back. Cars below the yellow line.
Below the yellow line. Car in the wall. I believe that's Robinson again for the 4th time. He gets away with it.
Now again, you cannot pass and advance your position below the yellow line. However, if you are avoiding an incident, you have a very strong argument to get that nullified. So I think everybody will be okay there. They were all simply avoiding an incident. Eli Sasek, oh, trouble!
Trouble!
Sideways!
There's Dietrich, and here they go! Caution's out, huge crash, Holzer involved.
Bud's in it as well. Carpenter holds on.
Stewart and Cattell, but this will end. Several drivers run in the Winstel 400 immediately.
And now...
oh my goodness.
This changes everything.
I was getting ready to ask, with less than 20 to go, do you think they can do it for the next 18 laps? And before I even had a chance to even get that from thought to actual verbal communication, the question was answered pretty emphatically with a no.
Anthony Krovach for Big Fan Esports will take the pace car with Craig Lautenschlager, GT Hawkins, Alex Kolonix, the outside pole sitter, and how about this one? Michael Sturgill, who was torn all to pieces in turn 1 and 2, and pretty much the second caution of the day. They fixed that number 3 up, and it seems like it's found its place where it always belongs at Daytona, at the front of the field.
Oh, goodness gracious. This was a wild start. So this is a replay, because Sasek's on the... so this is Carpenter below the white line, or below the yellow line, so he's trying to get out of the way of the leaders.
Yeah, well, watch the white car in the middle. Watch the white car in the middle and the gold car on that outside lane. Yep. You're going to see that's Alex Kolonix. He's going to move down. Carpenter in the middle, and the white car gets tagged.
This is Lautenschlager that goes up the block, and this is... Kolonix there. That's, I think, Reedy.
No, it's Kolonix that moves down and hits the 30. I'm quite confident. You'll see it might have been a chain reaction, but it was Kolonix that moves down and bumps the 30, and that's what triggers everything here. Watch again.
Oh, yeah, the half lane move behind Hawkins. I see it now, yeah.
Yep, you'll see it there. So I don't think that had anything to do with Lautenschlager. It was simply just a misjudgment. And who is that blue car in the middle that just about squeaks through there? That's Austin Reedy. I don't know if he gets completely clear of this or not, but I think he gets minimal damage. Right there, that car in the very middle. Okay, this is on board with Reedy. It was a car further ahead that sneaks through in front of the yellow car of Aaron Smith. I'm not quite sure who that is in the middle, but he just about squeaks through here. This is on board with the 11 of Reedy, though, who did make it through. He has an adventure.
68 of Thomas Harmon was the car we were seeing.
So that was
68 car.
Yeah, I'd love to see an onboard of that as well.
Yeah, that's 68 of Harmon. So Reedy gets clear of that.
Reedy does a great job to get through that. This is who I saw first.
Yeah,
this is Thomas Harmon. You can see it. Well, if we back this up, yes, thank you. You'll see here Kolonix trying to side draft there. That I think he just moves down here behind GT Hawkins. You'll see the contact
there, and then there is contact
there.
There
it is. And Harmon gets on the binders. I don't think he's completely clear of this, but it's bouncing out a little bit.
Christian Bud almost got through that.
Yeah, he does not clearly get through it, but he honestly could have been a lot worse, all things considered. He keeps it pointed in the right direction, should be able to fix most of that damage.
Yeah, so pretty good there. As I mentioned before, this bails out Nate Stewart, who was on the verge of going a lap down. He is now in 19th position.
And he has been the strongest car this speed week. So
100%.
He is finally, he's going to be energized from this too. Look at this as they all kind of scatter. You see Bud gets together with Carpenter. Huge
really
hit for
hard
Holzer.
Hit there. Holzer and Dietrich.
Who's that? It's the 07. Oh no, that's
Kirk Marble.
Kirk Marble, who's been having a fantastic race. He almost goes upside down.
Again, in the tri-oval where the cars are the most unstable.
Absolutely. So.
And that was going into the tri-oval too. They hadn't even quite got there yet.
Anthony Krobach leads Michael Sturgill, Aaron Smith, Robinson, the Frenchman Collignon, and Howe, with Lautenschlager, Mauricio, McGee, and Stewart, the top 10. If you're enjoying this broadcast, folks, because it's been a fantastic one, we have several more things coming up on the ABN Studios lineup. Of course, yesterday were the Winstel duels to set the field for this event, which you're currently watching now. But on January 19th, the draft to pick the drivers in the ARCS A2 Cup Series will be hosted at 7 p.m. on the 19th. It'll be the clash for the ARCS A2 Cup Series on the 26th, followed by the ARCS Duels at Daytona on February 2nd, PEC at Spa, and the VRR GT Tour, the return of VRR, virtual reality racing, with the V8 Supercars at Daytona. Of course, you can go ahead and follow on Twitch and YouTube, wherever you're watching this, to get all the action here from ABN. And we'll get to that with a few days, but for now, it's all eyes on the final 15 laps of regulation in the 2025 Winstel 400.
15 laps to go. That's what we're going green with here in Daytona for the Winstel 400, the 13th edition of the great simulation race. Anthony Krobach driving the team, just representing Davin Cornelius, our good old friend, drive through of another Winstel member, Winstel Cup Series regular here. Anthony Krobach trying to do him proud here in the 23 car. Nate Stewart, look for
Keep an eye on
after
him.
pit stops. He is in 10th spot outside row 5 behind Mauricio alongside Brennan McGee in his flu game. A lot of storylines here. We're coming to green with 15 to go. We have one overtime finish if we need to. We have one overtime attempt. We're hopefully not going to need it. 15 laps to go. For the Winstel 400, it's Krobach and Sturgill leading us to green. We're back underway. 8th restart of the night.
And it's a dead heat as a tandem here. We're still riding on board with Nate Stewart. Keep your eyes on the blue and white in the closing laps. He's finally back in contention as they're 3 wide already, Carmen.
Absolutely. 3 cars out of this race. Bryce Saucier officially out and over with here. And
Emily Howe and Mauricio on the top with Nate Stewart and Christian Budd. That is an all-star lineup on the outside lane. It really
is on the outside lane. Emily Howe trying to go back-to-back. The first driver to do it in over a decade if she can. She's on the point with Mauricio in tow. Mauricio's won at Daytona before, just not the big one.
Through the middle there.
That is Rocky Boyd.
Rocky Boyd. Oh, my goodness. Huge save by Lautenschlager. Emily Howe to the front.
And Carpenter.
They all gather it up. Emily with a big lead.
Look at this. This is
Look at Krobach and Aaron.
Krobach and Aaron Smith. That is Nate Stewart in the middle, being helped now by Rocky Boyd.
How about the 70? How about the 76 of Cullen Young? We haven't talked about him all day long. The Frenchman.
Car. There's 2 of them in this field, the 76 and the 97. The Swissman a little bit further down the order, the Frenchman in the top 10.
Oh boy, they can't do this forever.
How they cannot do this forever. How long can they go? 6 rows, 3 wide. Make that 7 rows, 3 wide. It's Howe and Mauricio, though. They are clear of the field. 13 to go.
And critically,
here comes Nate Stewart in the middle.
And critically, they stay on the top lane for now.
Here we go, Boyd to the bottom.
Boyd to the bottom. Stewart going to have to try to find help elsewhere. It looks like it might come in the form of the 41. It might be Leandro Moreira.
And Moreira and then Sturgill.
Look at Carpenter frantically trying to find help on the bottom now. Nobody can get lined up like the Winstel group right now because look, it's every single Winstel driver on the top. It's Howe, Mauricio, Budd, Baker.
Look at Pressy.
Solis.
Pressy got that lap back on that caution because he raced it back. And now he's in this contention to potentially win the biggest race of his career in his first attempt to do it.
Boy, love him.
A lot of shooters he's got to get around, and they're all working together with 11 to go.
Absolutely, and love them or hate them, the Winstel group, they're just strength in numbers. They have over lifetimes of experience added up together. They will always find their way to the front, despite everything that they've been through. Every single driver in this outside line's had their own story to get here, but they now dominate the top 10 with almost 11 laps to go now. Oh, trouble, Moreira in the middle.
And there's trouble. That's Pressy turned around. That's Robinson. That's Cattell. Huge crash. That is Rocky Boyd involved. And that's a big one.
Oh, and the 13 gets tagged right at the end. He almost made it through. That's the 70 of Aaron Smith once again backwards, but I think he might be okay for the second time today. I think that's Mo Perry.
Well, importantly for Aaron Smith, he didn't use his fast spray the first time.
Correct.
So now he needs it, and he's going to have it. So
Emily Howe, the only female to start this race, is currently the leader of this race with less than 10 to go. So the only laps she's led tonight were the 4 that she just did. She's got Mauricio, Bud, and Baker for company. Brennan McGee suffering from the flu in 5th place. Jose Solis Jr. in 6th. You mentioned Pressy got back on the lead lap, as did Jose Solis from their penalties. Jose was lucky. Pressy was not. See if we can't take a look about what happened here in turn 3. It started with Leandro Moreira getting sideways in the middle.
Yeah, really good look here. And
This is the last caution.
This is the last caution here. This is what we had. This is where we had with with Carpenter and Kolonix and everyone. So we'll give chance here while we have time, because we've got plenty of time to get this organized. Here we go. This is into turn 3, and this is further up the road here. Let's see if we can get a focus on the 4-car Pressy here.
Oh my gosh.
Just bear with this. We have a huge menu with this new updated ticker, so it's going to take us a second to actually get calibrated on the 4 and the 41.
That was Rocky Boyd that took a hellacious slam
and
the
91
flying through the pack. Now here, if we can back it up just a little bit, because here's Leandro Moreira. He gets a push from the 3 machine of Sturgill, and it looks like he just kind of, I don't know. We'll see.
It looks like he's getting a push as he's side drafting Dietrich, and it seems like this is not going to be pretty.
Oh, and Pressy moved down, and Moreira tried to make another hole, but there just wasn't room. So
Moreira tried to take the run he was being given by the 3, because if he lets up, he's probably getting turned no matter what.
That was probably 2 of the more aggressive drivers in the field coming to blows there with a Pressy who's been throwing very late blocks tonight.
And Moreira has been disqualified.
Yeah, because that's his second C of the night. So
yeah, that's his second incident of the night. So unfortunately, his race comes to an end. Him obviously looking big picture, not looking small order.
If we can run this in just slow motion, maybe from one of the wide shots to see who all gets involved in this, because it's getting to be crunch here. Of course, you can't really blame Moreira for trying to find that hole, but you can't blame Pressy this late in the race for trying to block.
Pressy sees a rocket ship behind him, and he's trying to attach to it because he's on the lead lap for the first time in half the race.
It just doesn't work out, though. This is one of the few things about this package that really just sucks, because people are going to make these moves. Hindsight's 2020. Should the move have happened, it was never going to work, the block, but that's just how it is.
You're kind of hoping you can get lucky.
Exactly.
You just need to get lucky. For Pressy, he was thinking, get lucky once, take the momentum. Sort of like, and again...
Well, he's had bad luck all night. He's thinking, surely it'll turn around here. Perhaps I can get away with one move, and then... No, it didn't, unfortunately, but...
Let's be responsible.
That's the nature of Beast. So, you'll have that. As it stands, we're within 10 laps to go. I believe Mo Perry, someone was asking about Mo Perry. I think he did sneak through there. I saw him with very minimal damage.
He's right there. He's right behind Kolonix.
And we mentioned Mo Perry because he was not supposed to race this event.
He missed the event,
He did not qualify on speed. He did not have a provisional. He did not advance through any of the heats. He made it simply because someone could not make the race, which means that he got the last second call to jump in the car, fire it up, and get back out there. He still had to be in position, of course. He was one of the first cars on the outside looking in, so he still had to race his way to get even in this position. We're on board with him now. Watch how he tries to pick through this one.
Yeah, and you see the wall of cars. This is not fun. It's not fun to be in this situation. A little bit of contact there with McKissick. That's the 52. Slides right in behind Boisvert.
And he just keeps going to the grass. And now watch this, because it's not over. They're still wrecking in the grass. Now he has to take a jump over the dirt here.
Because that's where the tunnels are for Daytona.
Yep. That's a brilliant piece of driving from Mo Perry.
Taylor Mills racing driver in the Champ Car World Series in ABN.
And that's proof for you there that even the drivers that didn't make the field deserve to be recognized for their talents. That's some great driving from a kid who wasn't even expecting to be in tonight's event. Now he's looking at an opportunity to maybe try to win the thing. He's just outside the top 10 with a handful of laps to go.
Absolutely. Really good stuff so far here. So, while we got a chance here, we're going to take a second. We have one attempt at a green, white, checkered finish. It's called the point of no return. If a caution comes out and we have to use it, that's it. There's no cautions after that. Those final 2 laps go forward. We have 6 admins, 6 series officials overseeing this race. Evan Mellinson, Parker Alexander, who missed this race, Tyler Head, a 2023 Winstel Cup Series champion, Hayden Repas, who is a longtime Winstel veteran, Dylan Roberts, and Philip Snipes. overseeing the officiating here for this event. Want to give them their flowers as well before we get too awful caught up in the craziness. It is Hal and Mauricio front row, Christian Budd and Tristan Baker row 2. Green flag flies with 8 laps to go. Is this the final restart, or are we going to need another one?
On board with the lead Canadian at the moment, Brennan McGee, running with a fever, not feeling well. He's been sick all week. Flu game is not a joke. It has been done time and time again, and it's no different in esports. 3 wide behind. Oh, Emily tried to block up there with Bud. Bud couldn't clear. Oh, look at Krobach.
What a save by Krobach.
They all save it. How about
Tyler Murray still trying?
Murray is going to hold on to it. The question is, can he merge safely?
Really close. Kirk Marble gave him a lot of slack. A ton of slack. That was great.
As did Nate Stewart. Great driving and great sportsmanship from all of them. Great car control by both Krobach and the 16 machine to not crash it there.
15 miles to go. That is 7 laps of racing left.
Yeah, if you can't tell by the on-track action, Christian Budd to the front of the field with Brennan McGee. Brennan McGee has never won this race. He's 0 for 13. No. He was oh so close last year. Snookered on a speeding penalty in the final exchange. It went to Emily Howe to win her first Winstel 400. But they're lined up once again. Christian Budd trying to take a victory here as well. Carpenter.
47-14.
Boisevert.
Hawkins.
Boisevert did not make the field last year. Made the field this year, and he's going to make every lap count. McAdams to the middle. 6 to go.
We are down to 38 drivers in this race. It's how we're setting. Car spun to the inside lane, and this could be ugly.
I think it's Potak. We stay green for now. Nobody else collected. A single car spin, unbelievably. It was not Potak, because now he's in the middle. I can't quite tell who that was.
Car that was involved in that. Let's see if we can find it. So bear with us for a second. Trying to look throughout the field here. Because again, we have 32 cars.
It was the 75. It was Alex Kolnick.
75 Kolnick. There you go. It was one of the green cars.
He kept it out of the wall. He's rolling down the backstretch, so they are green. We stay clear with 5 laps to go. Great avoidance again by the field.
Christian Budd leads. Brennan McGee in second, sitting in the bridesmaid spot. Emily Howe sitting in the 3rd position. A field battle. Amherst Reporter said nothing during this race.
Oh, wrecking again. Another car around in the back.
Trouble, and that's
now
yellow.
The caution's out.
And they'll reset and try again.
This time.
This will need the green white checkered, and that is Collignon.
Don't beach it. Don't beach it.
There you go. The Frenchman gets it rolling again. The Vaillant racing car. He was up in the top 10 for a period of time. Was not in the top 10 at that point in time when he got spun. But it looks like damage avoided for the 76 car. So he's still with a really good shout. And it saves Alex Kolnick, the outside pole sitter.
Yeah.
Who was 25 seconds adrift.
Can we talk?
Budd, the 2-time champion, now leads, looking at the point of no return.
Can we talk about that save from both Krobach and the 16 car as well, and Kolnick, who's done a fantastic job, but Murray and Krobach were pointing at Lake Lloyd respectively down the backstretch. This is what brought out the caution. This is Nate Stewart between both of the Vaillant cars.
Yep.
Just
that's Collignon just kind of closing down a little bit too much there on the 67, who has nowhere to go there.
Yeah, and to no discredit, because Collignon was in the top 5 just a few laps ago, got shuffled back, as did Nate Stewart, who had to do the sportsmanship move and roll out of the throttle for that incident with that went down the backstretch. I think they were both frustrated to be shuffled out. They saw their chances starting to slip a little bit, and kind of just a little bit of an overlap for the two of them. Now, this is what happened to Alex Kolnick down through the tri-oval. That's Mo Perry behind, and Krobach, who just had the save of a lifetime, in front. Kolnick is going to move down behind Nick Doucette. And I think that's Rocky Boyd, is it not, behind?
I believe so.
So we'll see here.
On the replay.
And Kolnick turned himself on Boyd, I think, but I'm not sure if Kolnick wasn't getting blocked. by Boyd, and that's what kind of or by the car in front, which kind of precipitated that. But Collins does a nice job, keeps it below the apron. That's why we stayed green. He was out of the way. It was a single car, and that's what happened there. Couple cars coming down pit lane, including Collins and the 76 of Collignon who went around, the 16 who needs a new fire suit, I think, being the main reason for that pit stop. And it looks like that's the takers of the drivers who are in contention. The free pass should go to the 99 of Eli Sasic, which I believe will put him, I don't know if that'll put him back on the lead lap or not. Try and check with that shortly, but we may have found the Tyler Murray incident with Anthony Krobach down the back straightaway. I think we have, because there's Murray. This is a great piece of driving by everybody in the field. I think that's Kevin McAdams that gives a bad push to Krobach. We'll look at it from the aerial view. You see at the very top, fourth car back, green and white. Krobach gets a bad push, gets turned. And then McAdams still pushing, obviously. Bounces into Tyler Murray. Krobach does a fantastic job to not clean out Michael Sturgill. And how about Murray going for a rallycross ride down the back? And look at the Kirk Marble, Nate Stewart, Potak. They all do a fantastic job of just taking the pain there and keeping that from being a massive incident. Great pieces of driving by everybody involved there. That should have been a massive crash. And it kind of shows why the 43 that made the field deserved to be here. Again, over 50 people went home this week and did not make the grid for this event. So
going to go ahead and shout out Parker Alexander, one of the stewards for this one of the officials for the Winstel 400. So this is a standard event. We have 3 green white checkers. So we do have 2 attempts before the point of no return. So there is 2 green white checkered attempts. We're going to see one right now. The second one, if we have a caution, again, you have to take the white flag for it to be official. If we have a caution before the white flag, we do it again. If we get to 3, that's it. No more cautions. That's just the way it's going to be.
The race will not end behind the safety car. It will end under green flag conditions.
It's just a matter of which one.
Correct.
So correction. So I appreciate Parker Alexander shouting that out for us.
Yes, thank you.
Under traditional Winstel Cup Series rules, it is the single green-white checkered, which is the point of no return. So that's the differentiator there. We're racing under standard rules here, where it's just 3 green-white checkers. The third one is the point of no return. Which,
by the way, one final time, because he is leading the field in that number 50 machine, that Cup Series that Carmen's referring to is the Winstel Cup Series, running the Gen 4 Cup cars, and we'll soon be running the new Cup cars once they're released from iRacing. Doing the 2005 season, we've done 2006, then 2003, and 2004 in the last 3 years. Now we're running the 2005 cars, so all of the standard NASCAR Nextel Cup cars from 05. We get to run the roster. You are more than welcome to join us in that. Go to discord.gg/Winstel to find more details on that. But with that...
Absolutely. Season starts March 2nd, so we're going to see a lot more action here, though, as we look at our first overtime attempt, green-white checkered number 1, and it is 2 of the pillars of Winstel Racing at the front of the field. Christian Budd, the 2-time champion, looking for his first Winstel 400 win. Same with Brennan McGee, looking to go 1 out of 14. He is 0 for 13. Sorry, 1 and 13. He's 0 and 12 going into this race. It is those 2 at the front, Emily Howe and Corey Carpenter, the second row of the field. Green flag flies. Overtime is underway here at Daytona. 5 miles. Do they make it to the white flag? That is the question that needs to be asked. They're already 3 wide. Kirk Marble in the sucker hole. Further on back the order. Top 6 rows, all line astern. Kevin McAdams trying to find a way around. GT Hawkins. Hawkins very clever and wise to it. This is a sporty sport. Too.
Brandon Cruz jumping into the middle lane, has help with Nick Doucette. It's Bud and Emily Howe on the bottom. McGee and Carpenter at the top. Carpenter, one of the dominant cars of the day, trying to fend off the Winstel gang, trying to play spoiler.
Bad bump by Carpenter to McGee. It's going to slow that outside lane up. McAdams to the outside with help from Hooper. We've not talked about him since the beginning. to the white flag. 1 lap to go in Daytona.
We have seen the white, so we will see this race end under green. They don't crash behind. 2.5 miles to go. Bud and Howe out front. Mauricio trying to back up to Michael Sturgill and try and mount an attack.
Oh, Sturgill goes to the inside. Sturgill's got a really good run. Does someone cover him off?
Crash at the back, but never mind that now.
They're still racing to the finish. Sturgill with help from McGee. Not enough right now. 3 cars are clear. Mauricio looking at the top 2. Christian Bud leads. Emily Howe in second. Mauricio looks for third. Mauricio blocks Carpenter. They wreck behind. They somehow save it. Emily Howe below the yellow line. It's going to be Christian Bud who wins the Winstel 400. Christian Bud, the Winstel Cup champion, breaks through with his first win in the Great Simulation race in a photo finish. And congratulations there, and there they go.
I will assure you.
Barrier.
I will assure you that Emily Howe is not wrecking Christian Bud.
That is all in jest. That is a well-deserved win by one of the most well-respected drivers in the Winstel field. Christian Bud beats Emily Howe, denies the back-to-back to win his first Winstel 400 in a photo finish. And it was a photo finish throughout the entire top 10 that should have wrecked and didn't.
Unofficially, the top 10 reads as Christian Bud, Emily Howe, the number 60 of Baker. Then it's Hooper, Jose Solis Jr., and how about Boisevert? Didn't make the field last year, finished 6th this year. Anthony Krobach, Corey Carpenter, Michael Sturgill, and Brennan McGee on the flu game. He's going to be 0 for 13, but...
What a drive, what a race, what an absolute finish. Christian Bud, our winner in today's Winstel 400. This most well-deserved burnout. We're going to see it all here on AVN. Christian Bud, the man, is here.
Absolutely unstoppable in the Winstel Cup Series. Continuing that momentum from what would have been 2004 into 2025. And shows no sign of stopping. Look at those iRacing updated track there, making the marbles look oh so great. And making this win all the more sweeter for Christian Bud, who finally claims a victory in the Winstel 400. What a fantastic effort from him. Winner in the duel as well. How many times have we had that happen where the duel winner went on to win the big show as well?
Not very often, no.
I dare say it was an Earnhardt-esque performance from Christian Bud. He played everything right. The biggest mistake he made all day was scraping the wall slightly out of 4. And clearly, it didn't hurt that car at all. Here's a look at how they came back to the line as the melee ensued behind Emily to the inside line. And look at Bud trying to get away from that side draft. And then a door to Emily Howe and just stunts her momentum. And it's a number of inches at that point. But Christian Bud defends again. How close Emily Howe was to back-to-back victories.
Insane. That is so insane how close that was.
Shades of 2007 with Mark Martin and Kevin Harvick as the field unwraps behind them. And here's kind of a look at what happened. Corey Carpenter and Gabe Mauricio battling.
Didn't completely wreck that.
Yeah, it wasn't until here. See, that's how Krobach got through. There's Boisevert.
Cole Hooper.
Yeah, you got to give Boisevert some flowers as we see him go sliding through there. He absolutely made it count this year. Yeah, look at this. I mean, they were wrecking in turn 4, Carmen, and they didn't even go around until the entry of the tri-oval. And yeah, look at Hooper. Remember, he had some severe damage. Ends up sliding right through. There was also the wreck in turns 1 and 2 on the start of the white flag that we have to take a look at as well. Oh, goodness, huge hit there from Alex Kolonix to, I think that's Nick Pressey.
That was outstanding. Just the way that the fact we only needed that one green-white checkered attempt, which was so outstanding.
This is the white flag lap. So this is coming to the white, and this is where things start to kick off from that crash earlier. That was some pretty heavy impacts. I think we may have
to turn 2.
Yeah, we may have seen a car go upside down, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's in middle turn 2. That was Austin Reedy that got turned.
And it was the 16 that gets up on his board. Comes back on the wheels though, critically. So I think.
And you look at how many people was able to avoid that. There's this 97 of Chatelain.
There's Vlad Tokarev as well. This is on board with the 16 gang. Hold on. I want to note, I don't want to say it too early, Carmen, but I think this may be the second year in a row, with the exception of Parker Alexander's horrific accident in qualifying. This is the second Winstel 400 straight where all cars stayed on their wheels, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we didn't have any. We had a couple of near misses, but we didn't have any flips tonight.
This was the closest we came, and my goodness, I'd love to ride on board with the number 11, maybe a roll bar cam inside, because that is a heck of an angle. Yeah, tough break for Kirk Marvel, but he played a fantastic race tonight. Wonder if we can get an in-car here. This is on board with the 11, nevertheless. They see they're splitting GT Hawkins. They were 4 wide. I was wondering if they'd make it. This will be an interesting angle. Listen to it. Listen in. Oh. That's brutal. But I'll tell you what, Carmen, as fast as the speeds as we were going, and as much as these cars love to get airborne, it's great to see that was the closest we came to leaving the planet Earth tonight. But while that's all going on, the celebrations down in pit lane for the number 50, Christian Budd, finally victorious here. See if we can't have a word with him shortly.
Absolutely. We'll see if we can talk to all 3 of our podium finishers here tonight. Obviously, a wild turn of events start to finish here. So here's the top 12 before we get to Christian Budd. Obviously, Christian Budd, the race winner, Emily Howe in second place in a phenomenal photo finish. Tristan Baker, who shot the gap while everyone was crashing, approaching our finish line, ends up with the podium after qualifying 41st in this race. Outstanding stuff there. Cole Hooper on his debut finished in 4th. At a Jose Solis Jr., who finished 5th. William Boisevert, the Quebec City native, in 6th. At Anthony Krobach for Big Fan Esports. Corey Carpenter finishing ahead of Michael Sturgill. Brennan McGee in his flu game led some laps, was in the mix for the finish. A top 10 for the 94 car ahead of Brandon McKissick and Kevin McAdams, your top 12. We'll go over the full race results here after we do our interviews here before we sign off for the rest of the night. This is I believe the final restart here going to the run here. And with that, we will see if we can talk firstly to our race winner here tonight, Christian Budd, the 2-time Winstel Cup Series champion, victorious for the first time in the Winstel 400. Christian, this is Carmen from the ABN booth. How you feeling?
Oh, just amazed, really. Just gotta thank everybody here at Winstel for putting on these events. All they do. Such a privilege to be able to race with all these drivers. And Emily, thank you so much for the big push on that last restart. Brendan was pushing me really well on that before that caution, and then Emily just pushed the heck out of me all the way down there. And I knew obviously she's got to try and win the race. Photo finish in the line with her is just awesome.
Obviously, this was a continuation of the success you saw last year, becoming a 2-time champion in modern Winstel. Now backing that up with your first Winstel 400 in the biggest Winstel 400 entry list, the biggest Winstel 400 field in history. One of the wildest races we've seen in quite some time here as far as Daytona is concerned. What was going through your head? Because it almost was put into a bunch of ashes early on in this race.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to survive the first 2/3 of the race. I really just felt like, okay, just survive. And then I felt like I got caught up in every wreck somehow. Just didn't have enough damage to have to take the fast repair or do anything. I was able to fix the car up, and that last crash that I got caught up in and came down, took the repair, got the fuel, was able to come out still in a decent track position, able to get to the front, and then, and then at that point, you just hope that everything goes your way, and there weren't going to be a bunch of cautions here, and there weren't at the end there. So, yeah, just tried to do everything I could to try and make sure I got to the line first, and I knew Emily or Brennan or anybody who got up there was going to try their best. Everybody wants to win this race. It's such a hard race to even get into, much less to win. And so yeah, just feels great.
Obviously, what a way to kick off the 2025 calendar year. Obviously, we know the Winstel Cup season coming up in early March. We've been talking about the Winstel Cup season coming up, where you're going to try to defend your crown as the defending series champion. How do you kick off a season any better than winning the biggest race in iRacing right now with a performance like this? How do you kick that off? And obviously, what's the momentum now for you going into March when the Winstel season begins?
Yeah, I just try to take every race one at a time, and if I had my way, I'd win the pole and lead every lap and win every race. But the competition's too good for that, so just go out there and just do the best you can every week, and that's all you can do. I certainly have had ups and downs over the iRacing career. I've had times where I felt like, man, I don't know if I can do this anymore. I don't feel like I'm that competitive, and other times when I feel good. And just hats off to Emily and Winstel setting up the cars. So it's just such a fun race to do. And I was able to really feel like this season. I just over the off season, I just felt like I was getting. Finally, maybe something was clicking with plate racing and kind of understanding, especially this is a different draft, and being able to use the draft and understand positioning the car. But as far as the season coming up, I mean, just take it one race at a time, and hopefully can go out there, be competitive, lead laps, hopefully win some races. That's really all I look forward to doing.
Well, you did a fantastic job here tonight, Christian. A race win in the big stage, the Great Simulation Race. Before we let you go and let you fully celebrate here, if there's anyone to shout out and say thank you to, Christian, the floor is yours. A well-deserved race win, a well-fought race start to finish, and what a foot to finish the start of the year on.
Yeah, just anybody who watched this, I think my parents like to watch these races, and thanks to them for watching. Thanks to anybody else who's tuning in and watching these. Thanks to Emily and Brandon for putting together the big purse for this race. Thanks to Brennan for all the work he's done with Winstel and creating this awesome league. All the drivers, even the ones who didn't qualify for this race, they're just awesome to race with. You guys for doing these broadcasts. These have been great these last 2-3 days. So just super happy, and all the drivers tonight, it was at times the race was rough, but then there was moments of just awesome 3-wide racing. So they did a good job tonight.
A phenomenal race being won by a phenomenal champion in Christian Budd. Victorious here at Daytona. We'll see him again in March for the start of the Winstel Cup season. That is all over that car. What a way to start off the year. Christian, enjoy the race win, and we'll be seeing you again in March.
Thank you so much.
That was Christian Budd, our race winner. I believe Kristina's got Emily Howe on standby, so I'll hand it off to Kristina for an interview of our defending race winner, now second place finisher.
Yeah, thank you, Carmen. I'm here with Emily Howe, and Emily, about 3 inches from being a back-to-back winner for the first time in a decade, but nevertheless a fantastic race from you. Sat towards the front, but didn't lead laps until the closing stages, and once you got there, it was hard to get rid of you. Walk us through that last green-white checkered in the last bits of the race.
Yeah, I mean, the whole race I was kind of on the back foot. I mean, I didn't want to use my fast repair too early, and so I was involved in about the first 7 accidents and had about a total of 8 minutes of damage that I fixed over the course of that run. And the car just wasn't really all there at the end. It still had a lot of skew out of it and a lot of rear end damage. This was never fixed, so it was a little bit draggy. It was hard to kind of save fuel there towards those last 2 runs. But then once I got up front, was just racing. It just kind of, when I get up front, I can just stay up front. And so towards the end, just tried to help, everyone around me. I didn't want to lead because I felt the car was a little bit too draggy, but Push and I was just as fast as ever. So I knew coming off 4 once it was just me and Bud that it was going to be a drag race in the line. And he kind of came down, and I thought maybe go back to the outside because that would be the advantageous place to be in his right rear. But I didn't want to do the classic, move once, move twice, hook and kill us both. So I just, stuck to the inside and tried the side draft down there. But he played his cards perfectly and just got me before the line. And I think that is the closest finish we've had in Winstel 400 history at 0.005 of a second. So proud of Bud. He really improved a lot over the offseason. I talked about it this weekend. He was my pick to really kind of be a star that shined and stand out this year compared to other years, since he's not really been much of a plate racer over the years.
Absolutely, and of course, it seems like everybody that gets absorbed into the Winstel bubble is a plate racer, whether they want to be or not, from what we've seen in the last few years. So another EA Howe graduate from the School of Drafting, I would suppose, but...
yeah, he gets the EA Howe School of Drafting King Kong status for the semester.
Absolutely, and you got to think, you've been so close so many times. You win last year, you come in here with nothing left to prove, and just about win the thing over again. Was it like driving with less pressure this time through, or was it about the same as it always was now that you already had a win under your belt?
Absolutely. I feel like this season, because of that, win last year, I proved myself. I don't really need to, there's no chip on my shoulders, so I just kind of came in with the goal of just having fun and just, helping the gang and, making sure we got there at the end. So when it came down to Christian to pushing Bud there, I was just super ecstatic that he got the win there, and, hated that we all wadded up behind there. But a little bit of a tumultuous race all throughout, but towards the end there, those last couple runs were fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely, and it was a little unfortunate that a lot of the field wadded up, but we were talking about it in the booth heavily. It was shades of 2007 coming to the line. It was absolutely a photo finish to remember, and as you said, apparently the closest finish in Winstel 400 history. So, yeah, fantastic run from you. Congrats, and of course, we'll see you in the Winstel 2005 season, more than likely driving the Napa Auto Parts Chevrolet, as is tradition for you, and can't wait to see you and Bud mix it up there and make some more noise here on AVN.
Yeah, absolutely. I plan on taking Michael Waltrip unless someone ahead of me in points takes it first, which I doubt they'll do. So you'll see me again in the number 15 machine here on AVN, Sunday at 7:45 Eastern.
If there's anybody else you want to shout out, now is the time to do it. Otherwise, congrats on another fantastic finish.
I just want to shout out everyone behind the scenes at AVN for putting all these pictures and audio together for us all weekend long. Was up here in the booth Friday and Saturday earlier today, and everyone who sat around and watched this. It's been a long weekend of racing, a fun weekend of racing, and everyone who sits around and watches it all season long. So I want to thank the fans for showing up, and as always, the fans always win at these races.
Absolutely. That's Emily Howe, your winner last year and your bridesmaid this year. She'll finish on the top two years in a row. And Carmen, I think, if I'm not mistaken, you've been tracking down our third place winner who, it's not remiss, maybe a few people didn't even know who came third in all that melee, but I think you've caught Baker.
Yeah, absolutely. Tristan Baker here, the 60 car, who obviously had to squeak through the middle of all the melee on the tri-oval, coming to the checkered flag. Tristan, a podium finish here after a good showing throughout the weekend and a good showing last year as well. Walk us through, obviously this race was chaotic. You had to go your way back and forth throughout the field, just multiple times either way, to end up on the podium after everything that 60 car went through today, being sideways and backwards. What does the podium feel like for you here, given the circumstances?
It feels pretty great. You said I've had a good weekend this week, but honestly, this year's experience was completely different than last year's. Last year I qualified in out of my dual race and kind of got caught up in some wrecks early in the 400. But this year I had to go through the last chance qualifier and got lucky enough to get through that today. And like you said, started 41st on the field today. And kind of just hung out the back. I ended up going a lap down at one point and kind of followed Brennan McGee through. We all got kind of off kilter there, and I knew he would be a good person to follow. So I kind of tagged along with him there for a little while and followed his cadence as far as pitting. And then when it was time to go, I got in the outside lane and I found myself there at the end. So I'm beyond excited to come home third in this.
You talk about the stress of obviously coming through the last chance qualifier here. The car had run good. Obviously, we had a chance to run together before the last chance qualifier today. that 60 car seemed to be quick. That Toyota never seemed to really miss a beat. It was just a matter of circumstance and where your positioning was here. You talk about following someone like Brendan McGee, who was in the top 10 with you, and obviously you end up passing him there at the end. Being able to pick out the heads in the crowd you wanted to follow, and being able to do so early, how advantageous was that for you as far as just kind of keeping your stress level down and keeping your mind in check as far as like, I'm still on strategy going into this race? Because there's a lot of times with the opportunity to just kind of lose everything and kind of just go nuts was right on the table.
Right. And so you kind of get a feeling when certain people may be sending it 3 wide on lap 3 that they may not be the person you want to be following. But like Brennan, I feel like, I don't know that I've raced with him very much, but I know last year I noticed he was somebody that could keep his head on straight and knew when it was time to go. So you kind of just, like you said, the strategy game is one thing that you have to play. And fuel mileage actually came into play here at the end. It was looking like either you're going to have to stop twice or you might be able to push it to only 1 stop. And I feel like me and Brennan were on the 1-stop strategy, trying to save as much as we could. In my dual race, that actually bit me in the behind because I ran out of gas on the white flag lap. I was leading coming to the white flag and then ran out of gas on the white flag lap. So yeah, strategy and knowing who you can work with and who's actually knows what they're doing is a big help when you can get behind those people and follow them to the front.
It worked out phenomenal for you in that 60 car. That Granger Toyota looked absolutely outstanding all weekend long, under the lights, under the sunshine, and on the podium here in the Winstel 400. A good serving of retribution to kind of get back for last year's race that obviously didn't go well for that 60 car last year. Obviously, that being said, obviously you get a chance now to actually celebrate the result, your first podium in the Winstel 400. Before we let you go, obviously let you celebrate, obviously get ready for the work week coming up ahead. If there's anyone to shout out and say thank you to, the floor is yours, Tristan. Again, it was a lot of fun watching the 60 car carve it through the field. Looked in place the entire time when you were making moves there. But if there's anyone to shout out in particular, whether it's, inside Winstel, outside Winstel, whoever really kind of makes things work for you, the floor is yours.
Well, I want to thank Winstel, all of y'all that put this on. It's a great event. I know it's only my second time doing it, but I can tell Winstel is a good group and everything. I want to thank ABN for broadcasting it. Y'all do a great job. And I'll thank my fiance because typically I don't race on the weekends. I try to spend some of my time with her, but she let me do this race over the weekend, so I'll shout her out and say thank you.
A fantastic job there. Hey, a weekend race doesn't hurt at all. 3rd place, you can report back this weekend. It was completely worth it for you, Tristan. Congratulations on the podium, and hopefully we get to see you again in Winstel very soon.
For sure. Thank y'all.
That was Tristan Baker, our 3rd place finisher here in the Winstel 400. Ecstatic is not the right word because everyone had reasons to be excited to finish on the podium or finish in the top 10 here tonight. We'll go through the full rundown results of the Winstel 400. For everyone watching at home, a record-setting weekend for us here on ABN across YouTube and Twitch. It is Christian Budd ahead of Emily Howe, ahead of Tristan Baker. We heard from all 3 of our podium finishers here tonight. Cole Hooper, Jose Solis Jr., they round out the top 5. William Boisvert, Anthony Krobach, Corey Carpenter, Michael Sturgill, Brennan McGee, your top 10, ahead of Brandon McKissick and Kevin McAdams, who had to survive the melee, did a good job of doing so. We'll take a top 12 on the run there. Gabriel Mauricio led some laps, but caught up in the carnage late on in this race. 13th was his best result ahead of Jalen Handcamp. Nick Doucette in the 51 car in 15th place ahead of Brandon Cruz. Nick Pressey got back on the lead lap, stayed on the lead lap at the end of the race, although he only ended up with a 17th place finish. Lucas Davila, one of the most impressive drivers in this race, in my opinion, only able to get 18th after, again, the late race carnage. He was deep in the middle of the field when it all took place. Getting back up to 18th, a good run for him. Mo Perry, the driver that was out of this race and called in as a reserve, from last to 19th from Mo Perry. Alex Kolnick, the front row starter, only able to manage a 20th place finish. Justin Melillo, who had to make it in, was in last car in on the last chance qualifier earlier this afternoon, gets a 21st place finish after qualifying 27th. Craig Lautenschlager led some laps, started this race in the back row, could only finish 22nd though, with all things considered. Caught up in the melee there as well. That was almost an epicenter around the 13 car and the 11 we'll see later on in the order. Aaron Smith, the second, and Rocky Boyd, the third, round out our top 24 of 43 cars. Kristina, a lot of shooters in that top 24, but a lot of misses here from typical shooters on these plate tracks further on down the order.
Absolutely, but still got to give flowers to one of our non-American drivers. Charles Collignon was up front in the top 5 towards the end, unfortunately collected in the tsunami of cars that were the wrecks towards the end. Likewise for GT Hawkins, who was really wily and mixing it up, led several laps today. Jacob Potak, of course, he led that charge from that middle pack to get them back in contention, which played a role in how this race ended. Nate Stewart, I'm heartbroken for him. He was the one to beat all weekend long. Got caught up in a couple of mistakes and just couldn't make the most of it once he got back on the lead lap. He was mired in traffic and also caught up in the wave of cars. Likewise for Kirk Marble, caught up in the last lap crash, drove a great race, led laps as well. The Swiss driver, Gilles Chatelain, did a fantastic job putting it up into the top 20 for a lot of the race, but ending up also caught up in the melee. But I think the highest position for a Swiss-born driver in the Winstel 400, so 30th place there and an improvement on the qualifying. Tyler Murray had that fantastic save down the back straightaway with Anthony Krobach with a handful of laps to go. Unfortunately ended up almost on his lid down the back stretch. Austin Reedy, as you mentioned, Carmen, caught up in what seemed to be the vortex of danger for pretty much the whole race. Eli Sasek, things went from bad to worse after the first huge one. He just never could get back up, caught back up. The Isle of Man native Vlad Tokarev was out front, led laps tonight, but unfortunately fell behind on strategy and was also a victim of the crash. Leandro Moreira disqualified from tonight's event, unfortunately, as a result, not of anything overly ridiculous, just the rules of if you cause 2 incidents in a row, you are parked. Unfortunately, he was involved in 2 incidents that brought out cautions. Zachary Robinson in the number 20, the DeWalt machine, caught up in a lot of melee as well as we look further down the field. Now, Caden Diedrich led laps towards the end, was up in the mix, but again, another driver caught up in late race shenanigans. This is what happens when most of the field's running with less than 20 to go, that when things start popping off, you get results that you probably didn't deserve. Brandon Cattell, of course, he was up front for most of the day, but was 4 laps down for the majority of it, so unfortunate for him. Thomas Harmon had a quiet day for a while and then got caught up in more incidents. James Holzer, likewise, he hit just about everything but the snack bar, not really any of it his fault. Bryce Saucier, another day to forget the Speed Racer machine, certainly could have used a little bit more of that, unfortunately getting caught up in a lot of incidents tonight. Sean Butler, of course, blowing his engine on lap 1, then having a further issue with his internet, taking him out of the race for tonight, which is a heartbreak to many fans who were rooting for him because he was up front when things started to go awry. And Corey Cook, who worked so hard to get into this race, was running inside the top 20 for the time that he was in the race, but suffering from an internet outage as well, which unfortunately ended his Winstel 400 prematurely. And again, that 43rd car is up in the further leaderboard of Leandro Moreira, who got disqualified and relegated to 43rd for too many incident points. And that is the unofficial results, but I anticipate that'll pretty much stay as is upon review. But you can find all that on the ABN official results on the website or in the Winstel Discord.
Absolutely. ABNstudios.tv will be where you find not only results for the Winstel 400 if they do change, but the race recap being written later this week by Ruby Acosta. We'll be able to read up if you missed any part of it, or if there's any facts that we missed during the race. Ruby Acosta will have them on hand in that write-up later this week. You can also join the Winstel community. We talked about it, winstel.gg/Winstel, or you can find it on Winstel's 400 page on ABNstudios.tv. A phenomenal race. We get to see the full rundown as the run to the finish concluded there, with Gabriel Mauricio getting turned, the silver bullet being turned out of turn 4. I feel like I've seen an inverse of that before. But Christian Budd in that photo finish, and you see the calamity behind that Tristan Baker shot through the gap for his podium. It is Christian Budd, the winner of the 2025 Winstel 400, 13th edition of it. And what a finish it was. Congratulations to all of the drivers that not only finished on the podium, but those that made the race. 87 entries, 44 didn't make the cut. Biggest Winstel 400 entry list in history, and it was a free to enter event. Christian Budd takes the spoils of the $1,000 prize purse on hand for the Winstel 400, and it's well earned for the two-time Winstel Cup Series champion. There'll be more from us here on ABN this month. As far as esports is related, though, gonna have to wait a little bit. It's the ARCS A-Square Cup Series draft on the 19th on YouTube. All the ARCS A-Square competition will be on YouTube this year, as well as the High Octane Series and the ARCS Racing Experience later on this year. So the ARCS A-Square draft on the 19th at 7 p.m. It'll be myself and Kevin Young in the booth for that, going over the 40 draft picks to determine the runners in that ARCS A-Square Cup Series season. And the season begins a weekend later with the Clash at Daytona on January 26th. February 2nd, qualifying and the duels for the ARCS Daytona 500, 7 p.m. on YouTube. You're going to get a theme out of that. That's when they start their races on YouTube. Then the PEC 10 hours of Spa. 2 hours is important. The 10 hours of Spa on February 8th. It'll be myself, Olivia Hayward, Taylor Mills in the booth for that event. And then February 15th, the VRR GT World Tour. V8 Supercars grace the ABN screens for the first time at none other than Daytona International Speedway right here, the weekend of the real-life Daytona 500. So Amity Pulsatrix will be behind the broadcast panel. It'll be Olivia Hayward and Taylor Mills in front of the microphones for that event as VRR's Revival Tour begins in February and in earnest. We've had an amazing weekend of racing all weekend long, from qualifying on Friday, the duels yesterday, last chance qualifying in the pre-race show today, and in the main course, the Winstel 400, the 13th edition of the Great Simulation Race. Before we sign off, I want to give a shout out to everyone that was a part of this production. Obviously, I'm Carmen Sienna alongside me, former iRacing Daytona Day 500 champion, former ABN Open Wheel World champion Kristina Ryan alongside me tonight in the commentary booth. Amity Pulsatrix in the production booth yesterday and today. Kristina was in the production booth on Friday. Tyler Head, the producer of our overlay package that you saw all throughout the weekend, both the original version and the update that we produced today. Tyler Head, an absolute genius. We appreciate him a ton for that. And obviously everyone that was in the booth from the Winstel side, Emily Howe, Christian Budd, our now last two Winstel 400 champions, Brandon Cruz, another champion of this race, also in the booth, as well as Parker Alexander joining us in the booth here. Fantastic stuff there. We talked about the 6 admins, the 6 stewards of this race. Hayden Repas, you've got Philip Snipes, you've got Parker Alexander, you Dylan Roberts, all among that group. Brennan McGee, a part of the leading crew there for the Winstel Racing gang. What a way to kick off the year. From everyone here at ABN, Happy New Year. Welcome to 2025. We'll see you again very shortly. The 19th is when the draft begins on YouTube. Stay with us. You're going to want to see everything that we do this year. From everyone here at ABN and everyone here at Winstel to everyone at home around the world, stay safe, stay healthy. We'll see you again in a couple weeks' time. Until next time, Carmen Sienna signing off for everyone here at ABN. Good night, everybody.